Do you like tits and ass? Animated tits and ass, obviously. It's an anime. If you like tits and ass, watch Gridman. Only watch episode 5, and that'll give you enough. That'll give you. I think it was episode 5. But that'll give you enough meat. That'll give you enough meat beat potential for the rest of the year. What is that? MVP. Meat beat potential. You'll be set. You'll be set for the rest of the year. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 81. I'm pretty sure. 81 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We are back. Me and Shawn this week. As much as I beg and plead and ask to suck the wiener of our other co-hosts, everyone decides to fuck off on Sunday night. So it's me and Shawn again. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Beautiful.
We'll make it if we try. Just the two of us.
Beautiful. So we are here to talk to you guys about potentially nothing interesting for the next 2 hours. I hope you're excited, because I am. But
you can tell in his voice, ladies and gentlemen, that he is very excited. This is Kyle's excited.
This is the epitome. How you say it? Of my excitement.
Epitome.
Oh, is it epitome? Okay. Epitome. I don't fucking know.
Holy fuck balls! That was epic.
Oh, do you just?
Oh, epitome. Oh, I gotta fucking remember that.
You know what? You know how that? You know, I'm gonna explain exactly why I'm so fucked up. There was when I played Halo 3. I played a lot of Halo 3. There's a map called Epitome. Apparently, it's Epitome. You know, tomato, whatever. But
yeah, no, nobody says tomato, man. Nobody does that. And literally, no one calls it a potato.
What was I saying? So I was, for some reason, it always came across as epitome when I read the name of the map, and that spread across everyone that we played Halo 3 with together. And either no one knew we were all retarded, or everyone knew, and I was retarded in my lonesome while everyone looked at me and laughed. So that stuck, and then I never used the word for any other reason, because it's not something that casually comes up in conversation. But laugh if you may. But who is the one listening to the retard on the internet? Exactly. So I will have the last laugh. But
all right, you guys, if you abandon us now because he's challenged your intelligence, I won't blame you.
I haven't challenged intelligence. I've challenged dedication. If they are still around after that, then we have some fantastic fans. But
wow, that's a nice little spin doctoring in what you just said. I like it.
What was I gonna fucking say?
I don't know. How was your week, Kyle?
It was good. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Thank you for reading my mind. It was work, and school started back up, so I am hating my life on a pretty spiritual level at this point. But it's working in strides. Spending the time that I do have either streaming for the channel or playing games. Playing a fuckload. Like, I haven't played. Well, we actually did play a few new things this week, and if you follow the streams, you will know of those few new things. But we played a fuckload of Final Fantasy. Still grinding. Like, it takes the grind in this game is lengthy to say the least, but it's enjoyable, so I accept it for what it is. But I just realized I have my fucking fan on. Shit. All right, but Shawn, actually, I'm gonna finish what I'm saying, and then when you talk, I'll turn off my fan. So I apologize for any air you may or may not be hearing right now. It's actually kind of difficult, but
I apologize for what you can't hear.
I'm very anal about these things, as you all have known if you've listened for more than a week. But so we played a shitload of Final Fantasy. Been trying to get to a point where I have 3 characters, one that exists in each role, that are all high level gear. My highest right now is like 356, which is my astrologian, my healer. Right now I have a level 70 DPS, a summoner, that is relatively geared, not fully, and then now I'm trying to level up my Dark Knight, which is my tank, to level 70, so I could start gearing them, and then at that point, it would just be making sure everyone's geared, and then starting to do the end game trial, starting the Savage trials, which are a bitch in their own right, just because they're so mechanically intensive. It's fucking absurd. Like, if you want something, if you don't believe me for whatever reason, like Google like Hell's Cure, like Extreme, Final Fantasy 14 trial, or Final Fantasy 14 trial, either Alphascape, Sigmascape, Deltascape, or there's like a whatever Omega is. I don't know. I don't remember. And then Extreme and Savage trials. Look up those videos, look up how they explain them, and then just sit there in awe as you wonder how the fuck people figure this shit out from the get-go. But it's crazy. When you have videos explaining a fight, and they're like in 2 or 3 parts that each last 15 minutes long, there's something wrong there. Like, that's a lot of fucking shit to memorize, and understanding the phases and stuff. So, but a lot of the cool stuff is down there. Like, I want to get all the cool shit, but we got to get there. So that's what we're working on, trying to gear my characters up. And once everyone's at a decent level, it'd be pretty much be doing the dailies and trying to get these mounts and like cool minions or Keston rolls. I might pick up another like Disciple of the Land or Disciple of the Hand class and start working on that. Maybe get fishing maxed or start carpentry or something like that. Something that's more useful than fishing, I guess. But still enjoying the game to death. Like, I don't know, man. It's just something about it. I love being in the world. I love playing the game. I love just doing the dailies, hanging out with everyone, being able to have everyone together playing. If we're all on, being able to all do something together. It's cool. And I like everything else that's usually entailed in an MMO. All that, like that package, I like it. So been enjoying that to death. Really liking Final Fantasy 14, as you all may know, because we will not shut up about it here. But besides that, I played the demo for Resident Evil 2, the remake, and I can say that it was fun. I enjoyed it. It did spook me 1 or 2 times. We did stream the entirety of it over on Twitch, so if you want to check that out, go to twitch.tv/ThoughtPatrol, one word, and you can check it out there. The VOD will be there. It was a fun time. And then after that, we played a new game called Space Lords, some kind of free-to-play shooter that's kind of janky. But
and it used a song from like the late 90s.
What, Space Lords? Yes,
it used I don't even fucking remember the name of the band now, but they were really big in like 96 or 97 or 98, and then they just disappeared.
Oh, I have no idea.
And then you hear their song play during the opening.
Interesting.
Unlike Cage the Elephant, which is relevant, this shit is not. So it's kind of interesting that they tried to go with a Borderlands-esque opening.
Yeah, it feels very Borderlands the way it is, just like a low-quality Borderlands, or like a AA Borderlands. It doesn't have the polish of like a AAA title. It doesn't feel like it, at least. But that game's okay.
It feels like a AA Battleborn.
Yeah, that, or like it kind of also feels like a mix of like Overwatch and Destiny, but again without the polish that exists in those games, which is interesting. I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed playing it with Hector, and that game's also cross-platform. Would you look at that? We're trying to find ways to play with Shawn without sacrificing like our experiences too. I'm still waiting for some kind of like, I don't know, something that's not a shooter to release that we can all play together on console. They release like another Diablo, that'd be dope as fuck. Us all to get into a new Diablo game. We all have phones, don't we? Pretty sure. But if you got that, then I appreciate it. Let me know. But I don't know. I don't like playing shooters with a controller, to be honest. And I've been having fun with the ones that I have been playing on computer. So I'm trying to avoid that experience. So hopefully something we could find that's like co-op, online. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
I think an adventure game would be fun, or a shooter game that goes more off of like, say, style than precision. Like, what was that one that they made where you spend most of your time cursing and chaining deaths together and shit like that? Bulletstorm?
Oh, Bulletstorm. If they when they release a new Borderlands, I'll be down to play that on console, because it's like one of those things where you don't really necessarily have to be accurate. You're just aiming kind of for center mass for the most part. That'd be a fun game for us all to play together.
Borderlands rewards accuracy though.
It does, but it's not like, I don't know. But
Borderlands isn't particularly competitive though.
I haven't really played Borderlands on PC either, so I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So let's not have that experience, because then I won't want to do it. But
we still need to finish the Borderlands you and I started. Like, I'm still waiting to do that.
Which one is that? We never started.
We were
just
going to
said
play
we were
through
going
2, and then we were going to play through the pre-sequel.
I'd rather play
we started 2, but we didn't finish it.
I'd rather play through the pre-sequel, because I've played through 2 so many goddamn times that
2 is super inferior. I'm sorry, no, pre-sequel is super inferior.
Oh,
I like halfway through both, and it's got these huge problem with the pre-sequel is where 2 and the original are perfectly paced. The pre-sequel has these huge gaps where nothing's happening, like areas of the map with no enemies and just nothing happening. And then when stuff does happen, a lot of times they throw too much at you to the point where it doesn't have that kind of that feeling like everything's happening right at the perfect moment. The enemies, like, you'll be in the middle of a fight, and then a tank class or a destroyer class type character comes out to fuck with you, and that always happens at this moment. You know, that kind of shit's just not in the second one, because the second one was rushed out. I think they were working on something else at the time.
I don't know.
I don't remember, but it's good. The story's good, but the gameplay doesn't hold up. But I never got to finish 2, because every time I started playing 2 with somebody, then they would quit. And Borderlands isn't nearly as much fun when you're playing by yourself. Like, It's just a lot more fun when you're playing with somebody. And it's not that it's a bad game. I did have a lot of fun playing it. But when I'm playing by myself, I feel like I'm grinding. Whereas when I'm playing it with somebody, it feels like we're actually doing something. I don't know why it's like that. I think that's just me. Plus, I don't know, man. After Gearbox pulled that giant rip-off scam, like, I don't know what direction they're going to go with this next one.
Thing that happened recently?
No, the one they did with the Aliens game, where they took the money for Aliens and they put it into Borderlands 2, and then kind of just shit whatever was left out.
Yeah, I feel you. I thought you were talking about... And again, I don't know if those claims are substantiated. I don't know if they have been substantiated.
Yes. Oh,
no, not for Alien. I'm talking about the new ones. The thing with, like, the CEO having child porn, and then him taking like a $12 million secret raise or some shit. I don't know. But again, I
have no idea about that.
That's what I'm saying. This has happened recently, but I don't know if the claims have been substantiated. And he's also suing back. So it might be something like put out a hit, like, ooh, this man had trying to defame his character kind of thing. Oh, he had child porn. And I hope he didn't. Really fucked up.
Well, there's a lot of child porn accusations that end up falling through because they're not.
Yeah, it's just accurate. It's just like one of those things that even, like, because people, the way, like, news flows, a lot of people will see a headline and they never follow the story. So they'll see a headline, accept it as truth, and then go talking about it to other people and shit. So just the fact that a headline was made saying that the CEO of Gearbox might possibly have child porn without those claims being substantiated whatsoever, that news will still spread to people that will not follow up with the case or the anything, and it will just stay like that and exist like that. So even if
internet's got an internet, baby, why do your own research when you can repeat someone else's?
Exactly.
Or lack thereof.
Don't do any research at all. Like, oh man, did you know that, like, giraffes can stick? They could stick their tongue in their own anus to clean it. I wish I could do that.
He wears panties and pretends he's a gay pirate.
Exactly. Yeah, knew it.
Actually, that part was true. I do wear panties and pretend I'm a gay pirate.
Oh, see? Follow up the case, though, listeners.
Yeah, you got to
make sure you research Shawn's. Exactly. Make sure you research Shawn's accusations here.
But I might have been lying. That might have been false news just to attract attention, because all press is good press unless you're R. Kelly.
Exactly. And then now Thought Patrol blows up because one of the hosts cross-dresses as a gay pirate.
Yeah.
That's a perfect plan.
An R. Kelly reference.
And
name drop?
Exactly. And we totally didn't discuss our master plan right here on the show, episode 81. at 14 minutes in. That totally didn't happen. So, well,
14.061.
Yeah, it probably isn't even. Because some of the editing that I end up having to go through is probably not that timestamps closer, but completely off. I don't know, and always ends up whatever ends up happening. But that's pretty much it for my week, man. Excited for Q1, just like get fired up, like waiting for Kingdom Hearts. Just gonna be lit. Resident Evil, I don't know if I'm gonna buy when it's released. I might wait for a sale just because there's so many fucking games coming out and I can't be spending all this money on video games. So I might.
I'm a Lifeline Resi player, so that one's a must-have. The 7, I still haven't bought 7, but 7's not a classic Resident Evil game. Like, it's not the same when it's first person.
Although 2 plays exactly like 7. Besides the fact that it's third person, there's no tank controls. Thank God, because I'll have you know,
tank controls
I fucking hate tank controls. Like, I liked Resident Evil 1 only for the fact that it was cool for what it was, and it had a cool world, and it was spooky. But I fucking, ever since they were conceived and I've played them, I hate tank controls of the patch. And I know they were a limitation of the time because of the controllers. We didn't have dual sticks and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure we didn't have dual sticks. So it made...
the dual shocks weren't released when they released the first Resident Evil. And then they switched over to DualShock, and they released a DualShock 2 or DualShock version. But they didn't undo the tank controls. It just worked with the stick. They actually didn't release versions like that until after Resident Evil 4. I think it was... yeah, it was Resi 5. Resi 5 was the first one I think it was Resi 5. Don't quote me on that. It might have been 6, but I think it was 5 that did away with the tank controls.
No, I think 5 had tank controls. I'm pretty sure 5 had tank.
It's been a long time since I've run around with Shiva, so I don't fucking with the roided out Chris and Shiva. I don't know how the fuck Chris went from Chris and Codename Veronica, where like he's got a little bit bigger in every game, and it went from Code Veronica, which is the last time you see Chris in a major title, because he popped up in tiny roles and like Game Boy ones and shit like that. But man, dude, he doubled in size. Like, that's not, you didn't just do that by hitting the gym, buddy. We know you were sticking a needle in your ass cheek.
Yeah.
Okay?
And it's interesting because in 7, where he shows up in 7, he's not that big. Like, he's more of like a normal person, not like this roided out monster that he was the one that punched the boulder, right? While everyone's being attacked by.
Yes.
Okay.
No, he punched Boulder.
Okay,
And that boulder was like a multi-ton boulder. That was not.
Yeah.
He didn't use a fulcrum. There was no. Yeah, it was so weird.
Japanese will Japanese. That's just how it is.
Bro. Oh yeah.
So yeah, excited for. Speaking of Japanese, excited for the animes we got coming out soon. This new winter season looks promising with like Mob Psycho, Rising of the Shield Hero, the continuation of the Slime Show. We did say goodbye to a lot of good shows last season. We reviewed 2 of them last week. We'll review 2 more this week, and the 2 this week will be Goblin Slayer and Gridman, SSSS Gridman. So we'll talk a little bit about those shows and our impressions. But that's about my week. I've been good. How about you, Shawn? You got anything new that you wanna add? You wanna introduce? Got a secret lover?
Figured out a new anime that I'm really enjoying. We'll talk about that more next week when we've gotten into it a bit more. Okay. But it's another record show. Its name is homage to Record of Lodoss War. It's Record of Grand Crest Wars.
Question.
I don't know yet.
Wasn't Record of Lodoss War a space opera?
No.
Wasn't there a record?
Record of Lodoss War was one of the first. Oh, let me rephrase. It was the first high fantasy anime to really make notoriety for make a name for that genre. Like it drew people in a way that no fantasy anime before had, and it's because it was crafted so well and paced so well. The story was so strong, the characters were strong, and it was something that people could really get behind. They did a OVA version and then a TV series version. Each one has its strengths. But if I remember correctly, I think the TV series stuck a bit closer to the books. So it made a bit more sense in certain areas. They're both worth watching, though.
You know what I got?
I like.
You know what I got confused with? I don't know how, but But I got it confused with Legend of the Galactic Heroes. That's what I got it confused with. I don't know how, but I did.
Yeah, no, they're very, very different. No, it's a famous space thing. This is not.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying Grand Crest Wars so far. It's really interesting. We'll go into detail on that later. Other than that, I've been working on getting another job, and also I've been working on Final Fantasy, pushing the story forward. I got my Paladin high enough to where I can do that. So that's a thing that's happening.
How are you enjoying leveling as a tank that does piss all for damage?
It's a little on the frustrating side sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there's more you have to pay attention to a tank. I thought healing was hard in high level areas, and it can be, but with healing, the main thing you're doing is just making sure that you're putting the right spells out and that you're keeping an eye on your mana conservation and that kind of thing. But with tanking, you're paying attention to a lot more nonsense. It's kind of a hot mess at times, and it's harder to do with a controller.
Yeah, dude. The time I spent playing the Dark Knight and trying to efficiently, because you can just tank with the Dark Knight. You can tank with any of the classes. Okay, you can tank with any of the classes and just tank. Like you can just sit there, make sure you have aggro, make sure you're the one being hit and your allies are not, and then make sure you're not dying. But every tank class, the class design in this game is really good. I've said it a billion times, but every tank class has an additional something to it that adds on that just makes it where you have a little bit more to focus on while you're doing all these other things. And with the Dark Knight, they do some of the they're a little bit more damage intensive than the other two tanks. Like they do a decent amount of damage, although I think Warrior does a decent amount as well. But Paladin's kind of like the easy, you kind of sit back, stay alive, keep your mana up so you can heal yourself. That is, you heard that correct. The Paladin has a heal. They can heal themselves in combat with mana. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a thing, and that's why they're one of the better tanks in the game. Also, the fact that they have an ability where they literally become invulnerable for I think it's 10 seconds or some shit. It's crazy stuff. But with the Dark Knight, not only are you managing cooldowns, mana, because a lot of your abilities consume mana, you have a second resource called Dark Blood. They're edgy. Take that as you will. Dark Blood, which you use for your higher level abilities. You're managing enmity generation, which you have one combo for, and you have a second combo for generating mana, or mana, whatever. And you swap between those two cooldown or those two combos to make sure that not only is your enmity up, which is just aggro, it's how much the enemies are willing to hit you over your squishy teammates. Making sure your mana's up for casting spells so you can maximize how much damage you're doing, making sure you're rotating your cooldowns efficiently, and also watching for the enemy that you're hitting is not trying to eviscerate your asshole with some kind of big tank buster. So you're managing 6 or 7 little things throughout a fight and managing your cooldowns in that regard so that you can maximize both your damage, survivability, and resource generation. To make sure that you are prepared for anything while also dishing out a decent amount of damage. And it's very rewarding once you do get it down. It's just the process of getting it down is quite absurd, especially early. And I'm in that process. And for that reason, I like the Dark Knight a lot because there's a lot of... The skill ceiling is pretty high. And even then, you can go into the degree of stance switching in combat and trying to manage your mana by stance switching, which is dropping certain stances so you can regenerate mana faster and popping back into other ones, which is more high-level stuff. But it is crazy how much there is to learn about a single class when there's 15 of them. And just that idea, one of our friends, Hector, he's going to start leveling a Dark Knight soon, and I can't wait to see him get to 70 and start doing that stuff because he will be getting... I just want to hear the complaints because all I did was complain when I was trying to figure out where exactly to put all this shit. Because you have bars, you have to hit. I have basically, let me think. So I have 24. I think I have 32 or 33 abilities that I am actively or situationally rotating through in combat. And you can use, depending on the combat, you can use them all in a singular fight if it is a
Dark
long
Knight's
fight.
a lot more visual than the paladin.
Oh yeah, they're also
Like,
badass.
it's
They
very
look
interesting
fucking
to watch.
yeah, they look fucking cool. I got a new ability called Blood Spiller, and I grab my sword and like yank it and do like a front flip and like impale it straight down, and it creates this huge geyser of like black blood, and it looks fucking awesome. That's the coolest thing about them too. Not only are they edgy, but they look badass. They look so fucking cool. They hold these gigantic like Buster Sword S swords that they use to fight with. Ain't no pussy boy single hand sword and single hand shield like the paladin, or pussy boy axe like the warrior. You got a big ass broadsword that you're using to fight with, and you just look like a total badass. Like the whole time, you look like a Dark Knight. I don't fucking know. They look really cool. That was another reason I wanted to learn how to play them. Then it was just extra candy when I find out that they're a mechanically intensive tank late game, which is cool. And I mean, nothing against the paladin. I just think it's an overall easier to learn and easier to understand tank, and that's fine as long as you're doing your job and your squishy ass teammates aren't getting beaten to death by the boss. You're fine with me. It doesn't matter to me. I just like having a little bit more to manage when I'm in a fight, so I'm not just pressing the same 3 buttons and then maybe using a situational cooldown here and there. So that's why I picked the Dark Knight. I don't know, but whatever. I enjoy having mechanically intensive fights, even when there is no, because I can't even imagine managing all that shit, and then now you're in a savage raid or a savage trial, and then on top of that, you have another 35 mechanics you have to be watching for while you're managing all this bullshit. So
I think the mechanics are. I think I get bored when they're not using mechanics in it. I think mechanics are important. I like the fact that they do that pretty frequently.
No, I agree, and yeah, you do. That's why I like tanking in this game, because it's not boring. There's a lot you're doing, which is cool, and like even the healer. Again, going back to how cool the class design in this game. The class design is great because even the healers are fun to play. Well, the ones I've played at least. Like I really like the Astrologent. I really like the what are they called? The Scholar. I really like those two classes. Astrologent is my favorite because there's a lot you're doing that can help your team, and you have to be kind of smart with how you do it, on top of making sure everyone's not ground meat by the time the trial is over. So it's always cool when you have everyone focusing on their own thing, as well as making sure that this boss does not wipe the whole group on top of it. And that's like the biggest draw to these MMOs, is these mechanics. That's what people come for in my opinion. Some people it's the social aspect too, which I agree with. I understand that. That's also another really cool part about an MMO. But a lot of it, like the competitive nature, is min-maxing and dealing with crazy difficult mechanics and understanding all that. Like if you've played Destiny, learning the raid with your team and making sure not everyone's dying, that's fun. Imagine that, but times 100, and that's what you got with like a trial in Final Fantasy. And nothing against Destiny, it works for the genre that they're in, because it's a shooter. You can't go crazy with it. But at Final Fantasy, again, look them up. Search up Savage Trials, Extreme Trials. That came out like 4.4, 4.5, and Jesus, that's all I have to say when I watch those things. I'm like, how the fuck did these people figure this out? But let's move on. We spent way too much time on this topic. I feel like we almost have like a new segment where we dedicate 20 minutes talking about Final Fantasy at the start of every week. It's because it's all we've been doing. But as these new games come out, you'll hear a little bit different stories from us as we get into these things. I'm excited for Kingdom Hearts, definitely. I'm going to watch a video and hopefully understand what's going on. And if I don't give a fuck. Because playing the game, if I can't understand it from someone telling me what it is, then playing the games I don't think will do much better. But Shawn, you got anything else to add before we move into our housekeeping?
No, I kept it fairly short, concise, and to the point.
Good to know. All right.
My week was okay. I watched some things. I enjoyed them. There's only one that's really got me going crazy. Everything else is over. Ending of Gridman, like the last episode, was better than the entire rest of the season. Confirmed a lot of my suspicions. It's still not a strong show. It's still not a great show, but it is kind of fun. It just does a bunch of dumb shit along the way, and it kind of depends on how you enjoy dumb shit. Kyle switches his brain off. He's got control to switch his brain off during certain points. I can't do that. And I still found myself enjoying it, even though they weren't really telling the most compelling story. So I still think if you enjoy just dumb fun, it's a really good way to go. And the ending adds a little bit of depth in there, kind of interesting.
Here's some
questions in there. And if you're an Ultraman fan, this is an extension of the Ultraman universe.
Yeah, it's a fucking spoilers, obviously, but
look at the fucking posters, man. I was suspicious in the beginning,
but listen, okay. Here's a line chart. If you think you might be interested in Gridman, here's how you can tell. Do you like big monsters? Yes or no? If yes, watch Gridman. Do you like big like mech things fighting big monsters? Yes or no? If yes, watch Gridman. Do you like tits and ass? Animated tits and ass, obviously. It's an anime. If you like tits and ass, watch Gridman. Only watch episode 5. And that'll give you enough that'll give you, I think it was episode 5, but that'll give you enough meat. That'll give you enough meat beat potential for the rest of the year. What is that? MVP. Meat beat potential. You'll be set for the rest of the year. Won't have to worry about it. You will constantly have content.
It really wasn't a traditional ecchi.
Oh yeah, it was just it was fan servicey, but in a tasteful manner. To a degree. So you like big robots? We'll talk more about it when we get there. But let's get to the housekeeping. Again, as I said before, we do Twitch streaming. The link will be below. Head on over, say hi. We'd love to hear from you guys. Hear from more of the community. We play a bunch of different things. Again, we played Space Lords. We played the Resident Evil 2 demo. If you want to get updates for that, you can either join the Discord or follow us on Twitter. The Discord link will be in the description below. For Twitter, it's at ThoughtPatrolPD. Again, every method I'm listing here will be below in the description. You'll find all the links down there. Feel free to leave a comment if you're listening on YouTube about what we talk about. Do you like anime? Do you hate anime? Do you think all weebs deserve to die? Weebs get out? Or are you a fan? Do you like the JoJos and the Narutos and the stuff like that? Let us know. Also, while you're there, feel free to subscribe. We come out. That wasn't what I was trying to go for. We release new episodes every week on Tuesday at 8 a.m. So if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing here, listen to us every week. Feel free to subscribe there. Also, if you're listening on a podcasting service, you can do it that way as well. Subscribe, get our new content every week. We'd appreciate it. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. Again, Thought Patrol Podcast. We also have our sister page, The Streaming Geek, where there's reviews that go up for different types of media, from anime to movies and things like that. If you want to hear some of the opinions here or read some of the opinions here, you can do it in that manner. Also, there are a good way of helping us out, maybe help us show up a bit better on like the iTunes algorithms and stuff. Feel free to drop a review, whatever you think we deserve, whether it's 2 stars or 5 stars, 1 star, whatever. Again, whatever you think we deserve. I just want to get some feedback, find ways that we can make the show a bit better. We'd love to hear from you guys. So, with all that out of the way, we have our mailbag segment.
Hey, real quick, that band I was trying to remember is called Monster Magnet. They're the ones that did the song for the opening of Star Wars.
Okay. So, for our mailbag, we do answer questions here every week. If you want to send us one that we can read, we have pretty much no filter. You can ask anything you want, anything that comes to mind, and you want to let us know. You can do that in a couple of ways. Either go to our Gmail, thoughtpatrolcast@gmail.com, to send us a question there. You can do it through Facebook. You can do it through Twitter, with all using the hashtag TPMailbag, or you can go through our Discord and go into the mailbags section and drop it there. We'll add it to the show, talk about it, see, you can get our opinions in. Again, on anything. If it's I pretty much, like, again, we don't really give a shit. We're here to talk to you guys. I want to make it as open as possible for you guys to feel comfortable to ask us stuff, because we just want to hear from you guys. So if it's, because I don't think we've ever received anything like political, but I don't feel like I have a problem with answering it. I'm just here to give you my opinion. So I don't know why I went there. But that was one of the things that popped up when I thought about people being uncomfortable about asking a question, but whatever. So we do have a question this week. It's coming from Sam, our boy Sam, always coming in clutch with the questions. He says, and this is, I'm thinking, actually.
Are we still on the persona?
We are, but this question kind of relates to the news section, so I might save it till we get there, and we'll read it then, because it has to do with the Bungie/Activision thing. So we'll read that as we get to the news article, just so we don't have to sit too long here and then come back later and re-touch on the subject. So, Sam, hold out. I know you were already ready, hand in pants and all, but just wait a second. We will come back to your question. And we appreciate it as always. So, moving on forward, we have a few things. First, box office tops. Some movies came out this week, actually. Were they good? No fucking clue. I don't even know what they are, but we did have some movies come out. Shawn, I know you don't know, and you haven't known the past 5 weeks I've asked you, but what do you think is number one?
Well, January is where movies go to die, so I am guessing that it didn't just come out.
What?
That's all I really got.
Oh. No, it actually did just come out, and it's sitting at number one.
Oh.
I've actually seen I've seen a shitload of advertising for this film, and it looked interesting. More of the fact, because I like the actor that's in it. It's The Upside with Kevin Hart and...
Oh, right, with the two guys, yeah.
The fuck is the other dude's name?
That's weird that they released that in January.
I don't know. What's the other dude's name? Cranston. What's his first name?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston, that guy.
Malcolm in the Middle, baby.
So that movie made... let's actually open this up so I don't look like a dummy. Open up 19 million domestically. I don't see anything worldwide here. And it had a budget of 37 million. That's sitting at number one. Again, only 19 million for the weekend. Again, as Shawn said, January, not the best time for movies. At number two, we still have Aquaman holding on, sitting at 17 million for the weekend, with a total of worldwide, we're probably close to $1 billion. We did pass $1 billion. $1 billion dollars and 20 million. 1 billion. How do I say that?
How does Wet Thor compare to Wonder Woman's take, I wonder?
I don't know, actually. I would have to look. I think it's probably made more. Can I search on the site? I can. Wonder Woman. Let's find out. It didn't work. Uh-oh. I'm trying here. You threw a fucking fastball at me, bro. I wasn't prepared. Oh God. How do you spell? All right, I found it. No, I didn't.
You weren't going to ask me how to spell Wonder and Woman.
I was going to ask you shit. Shut up. All right. Wonder Woman made 821 million. So Wet Thor is sitting 200 million above Wonder Woman, and it's still going because it's in its its fourth week. It's in its fourth week now, and it's still.
So to draw out the comparison, Wonder Woman was considered largely supported by women.
Okay.
And it made X amount. And then you throw a movie in that's not about a strong, independent woman, but about a half-naked Wet Thor, and he blows that shit out of the water. That tickles me a little bit.
Yeah. But Wonder Woman made... Oh, fuck. I was trying to make a joke, and I can't remember the statistic. Wonder Woman made 75 cents on the dollar that Aquaman did. So that always it comes into play. You have to keep that in mind. I wish that number came to my mind much faster than it did, but I could not think of the statistic. It's 75 cents on the dollar. That's like one of the big things they throw out, right? For the wage gap?
Yeah, but it's not actually real. There is no... The wage gap's not real. It's been debunked so many times. It's just nobody cares about facts.
Holy shit. Don't at me. At Shawn.
Bring it.
I would tend to agree with you. I think a lot of the time the pay difference comes because the fields that those genders pursue are different. Like a lot of men go into like STEM and shit like that, or STEM. What is it?
It also has a lot to do with like who takes the role in the family and who ends up having to do what for the family and what line of, like you said, what line of business you're in, and a whole bunch of other factors that are not taken into consideration when people start blundering their mouth about this.
Okay.
Of all the injustice facts in the world, it's easier to cling to fictitious things than it is to cling to real things. There's so many other things you could be fighting for right now. Why is that something that you're opening your mouth and spitting stupidity over? I don't understand.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
number 3.
Feelings over facts, baby.
Number 3, A Dog's Way Home. I don't know what the fuck this is. I've even seen advertisements for it. It's got a puppy on the cover and he's sitting in a shoe. I don't know.
It's basically another Bungie. Dog gets lost. Dog comes back home.
Made $11 million for the weekend.
You just saw the whole movie, so don't bother.
Exactly.
Told you.
Number 4, we got Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse still holding out, pulling $9 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of $302 million worldwide, which is nice. Oh my gosh, wait. It's made more money foreign than it has made domestic. Interesting. The percentage is small. It's like 2% difference, but still. Number 5, we have Escape Room, which looked like absolute fucking garbage, but it made $9 million, sitting in its second week, sitting at a total of $34 million worldwide. I don't know how we keep getting these. I don't know who is okaying. I mean, I guess they make the money and they're cheap to make. So, I mean, this has made $32 million. It only costs $9 million to make. You throw in some kind of, not even okay, but like subpar to par special effects, have a dumb premise that looks like it'd be interesting on paper and is never well executed, and then everyone goes to see it, and it's almost like there's like this weird amnesia effect that it's so forgettable no one talks shit about it to other people, and then everyone just goes and sees it because no one's talking about it because it had an interesting premise, and then here we go, we have a movie that made $32 million about killer escape rooms. Like, what the fuck? I'm
telling you right now. Well, it's not. It's basic. It's like Saw. The guy puts them in there and they have to puzzle their way out, but if they fail the puzzle, you die.
Wasn't there that one about like Halloween Horror Nights, like a bootleg Halloween Horror Nights that they are killing people into or some stupid shit?
Oh, they've done that with everything.
Hellfest or something.
Like carnivals. They've done it with circuses. They did the Saw thing. There was one where it was like FBI agents and they go to this island to train on like code breaking or some shit. I don't fucking remember. They're training on like something, but one of them is not only an FBI agent but also a evil killer mastermind, and Christian Slater dies in the very beginning. Like, I think one woman smoked a cigarette with acid in it and her throat burned out or some bullshit. Like, that's awful.
It's my kink.
Yeah, it was this Captain Stupid makes these movies.
All right, that was about.
It's everybody knows it though, man. You can see it coming now. You get this kind, and you get the kind with like 46-year-olds playing 19-year-olds, like in Truth or Dare. Like you get that kind of garbage, or and I could substitute name for name Truth or Dare / Ouija / fucking Oculus / like I can just keep going with bastion of immortally inane and redundantly stupid horror movies. It's the easiest genre to fuck up. And the good thing is like fuck up horror movies, you got a percentage chance that it's going to be funny. They fucked it up so bad, so that's kind of working toward in your favor, but everything else is just give me my money back.
Yeah. All right. So we have a review corner. That was box office tops. Again, not really much going on, but we got 2 anime we're going to talk about this week. I had labeled them earlier. It is SSSS Gridman and Goblin Slayer. So because we probably have a bit less to say about Gridman, actually I don't know. They're both like, I think Goblin Slayer World is a better show than Gridman is, just because it has more of a, I think the pace is a bit better. It's a bit more concise, but there's with like the drop, like the kind of reveal at the end of Gridman, it adds a bit of depth to it that can be explored slightly while we talk about it. So I don't know, but whatever. Let's start with Gridman. We'll give our opinions. We'll give it a rating.
Emphasize that spoiler warning.
We'll give it a rating out of 5. Understand that we will go into spoilers in these reviews. With Gridman, it's kind of hard not to while rating the show. That's the reason we're doing it. Usually I try to avoid it if possible. Like I will probably avoid it with Goblin Slayer just because like there's no need to go into depth because it's its thing. You understand, you can read the title and kind of understand what the show will be about. Where Gridman kind of has a little bit of depth to it that I'd like to explore while we're reviewing it because I think it comes into play in the review process. Because again, like Shawn said, it made the show a little bit better for him at the end because he had a little bit more like stuff to chew on when it came to like the world and stuff like that. So we'll start with Gridman again. I'll have Shawn start because I love him. So go ahead.
So Kyle can go in and defend the shit after I knock it down.
Nah.
I started off just not enjoying Gridman because it's really dumb. It is exceptionally dumb.
It's dumb.
But
I love it though.
But there's something about it where you can't help but smile just a little bit. Like they try and make it out like it's a kid's show, and there's a lot of elements that are a kid's show, but then it dips spontaneously into concepts that are a lot heavier. It never stays there for long, or pervasive concepts that stay in there, but they're behind the scenes. Things where like people, for lack of better terminology, just vanishing, like lives just not even existing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not murder in the way that we think of it, so it's a little bit friendlier for kids, but I don't know, it's very strange how the whole thing works. I wouldn't consider it a children, but I think then more like middle school age, like a really when shonen starts kicking in for most kids. But I think that I know I blew the big surprise earlier, but this is very much in the Ultraman universe, even though they never call him Ultraman, he's Gridman. But it functions the same way. If this was live act, the only difference is they've got some extra elements to Gridman, whereas Ultraman's normally just himself. But I'm just blowing time here. The point is that I ended up enjoying it. I enjoyed it because I liked the villain a lot.
I did too.
I liked her character. I liked how she behaved.
Bro, I just want her to talk to me. Like not.
Yeah, dude. She had like the best voice.
Now wait, let me explain myself. Not in the
she
realms.
She was like Drew Barrymore in the early '90s or late '80s voice. Like she has this. She would just tell you to do stuff and you'd fucking do it because you wanted to hear her say it again.
Yeah, bro. She'd be reading.
Just told me to do something else.
She'd be reading the fucking weather, and then you're sitting there just so calm and like in a state of nirvana just because her voice is so calming. And throughout all of her, I mean, there were elements obviously where shit gets heated just because it's near the end of the show. But like every time, for the most part, when you hear her, she's just so calming to listen to. Like the voice actor that did that, I think, for the person that she was, kind of with like the broken heart and having issues with that, not really knowing what to do with the shit that she's done, kind of thing. I think it fit that character, and I think the voice actor did a good job in that regard. This show has very good production value. The animation, although it's CG, it's very good CG, I would say. And also the thing is,
it's smooth.
And I think that there's a lot of post that's done by hand, like with the explosions and a lot of the other stuff that, although it's all done on a computer, but I mean, like it's animated by hand for the most part. And then the models are the things that are the CG, and it works with mechs because mechs are usually moving slower because they're heavier, and it makes more sense.
These are Power Rangers style mechs. These are Ultraman style mechs. Like they are absolutely ridiculous.
This ain't
goofy. Like none of them look scary.
Oh yeah, no, this is no.
Like, we're talking old school Godzilla villains. Like they are hilariously bad, and I mean intentionally. Like it's fun to watch them function. It really is two toys playing with each other.
Yeah, half the time.
Like I remarked to Kyle when it started, when you see all of the various implements that Gridman uses when he's fighting, like this is a toy manufacturer's wet dream, because you can just make so much shit for this show, and kids are going to need to keep buying pieces. Like, it is toyetic as fuck.
Yeah, there's a lot of like nostalgia here too, because even a lot of the monsters, when you look at them, they look all like they're people in outfits. Like, it looks like straight up like old Godzilla. Like, there's a dude in an outfit stomping over a little clay city or some shit, and they're filming it. It looks just like that. And again, if you love kaiju, or you're even a fan of kaiju, you like the idea of kaiju, you like the idea of big robots fighting kaiju, I think that alone can provide you some form of enjoyment in this show. And then I think if that's enough to keep you around, there's a little bit, again, to chew on at the end, and we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, it functions a lot like, I have less experience with Power Rangers than I do Ultraman, even though I enjoyed Ultraman a lot more, because Ultraman's just so intrinsically Japanese, and I know the Super Sentai are, but that's kind of been diluted by my perception of Power Rangers, which is just something I've always detested. And I always just had a lot of fun playing the Ultraman video game, which were obsessively, obscenely goofy. And this show, the fights are short. The mini arcs get revolved very quickly. There's very few long-running arcs. The ones that are usually the main plot points or things that assist the main plot points. Almost nothing gets uncovered till the last of the show. And even then, most of that comes in the last episode and a half. Like, this is not deeply written. It's not intelligently written. It's just there to be kind of a good time and have a little bit of heart to it, and that heart really doesn't kick in till the last portion. So somebody like me who's looking for somebody to weave in concepts organically into a show, looking for things to evolve on a very kind of smooth basis, this is really just a monster of the week.
I was going to say the same thing.
It is. Yeah, with tiny bits, like very tiny bits popped in here and there, and then in that last third, it becomes a show. It becomes a real show. You start seeing character growth. You start seeing arcs defined. It never really gets there. And if you're somebody who really is like a completionist when you watch a show, in terms of you need all of those elements to be in the show for it to be good, kind of like what you see with the non-filler parts of Naruto, or with Hunter x Hunter, or even Hunter x Hunter. I mean, that really that's really not the best example, because that really does curtail to a very specific genre audience fan. But there are shows out there like, Naruto and a ton of other shit that all of a sudden I can't think of anything right now. Kyle can fill in the blanks for me, but that really do. They cover the full circle. They cover your drama. They have a logical story. It progresses well. Characters are developed. Action scenes are good. Like, thing is Boku no Hero perfect. Like, they tick every box. Like, there's meticulous writing on that show. That's not here. This is nowhere near that. But I still felt a certain amount of gratification. I think if it had run on beyond 12 episodes, it would have been a waste. I think you could have accomplished everything that was in this in a film or two, probably just a film, and it would have been better. I think that's probably the problem, is I really don't do the Monster of the Week formula. But in the long run, I really thought that the female characters in this show were strong. Even the supporting characters, they were all voiced really well. Like, the voice cast in this for the females was really, really, really good. Like, better than the show. Like, the villain was great. The what's her name? Rika, the one of the three heroes, the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was voiced really well. I wish they had done more with her and less with the one-dimensional main character. He was kind of pointless, almost.
It's interesting because that kind of plays into how the show resolves too, because it makes sense as the way he
works
acts.
Better in a plot sense than it does to watch.
Yeah,
like, I would have enjoyed it a lot more, and I think the show would have been oodles better if it had been from her perspective.
Oh yeah,
like, if you would watch the main hero do the hero shit, but it was all through her eyes, I think that would have been a really, really fun show to watch. But I did like the fact that they used some unconventional character design with her. It made her feel a bit more realistic. Like, she was drawn a bit more like an actual teenage girl than a stick, which is what you in most shows. But I liked her character. I liked the villain. And the last episode adds layers on top of them. I still don't think it makes it a great show or even necessarily what I would say is a good show, but it is a fun show. And like Kyle said, if you enjoy like over the top action, nothing stays in this show for long. If there's something dramatic, it's there and gone. If it's battle, it's there and gone. They don't stick with anything for very long in an episode. So it's kind of interesting. You get this little like fast-paced story and then we move on to next week kind of thing. And if you grew up liking stuff like Power Rangers and like Ultraman, you're going to like this. It goes just slightly more dense near the end in story. There's a potential that if they had fleshed that out and made it a bit more deep, I think it would have enriched the series overall. But even though it's not my kind of show, and I would not go out of my way to watch this kind of show, I'm glad that this time I caved and let Kyle talk me into it, because we laughed at it a lot. There was some funny stuff.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun with it. The fan service episode was the bomb diggity, and I did have fun with it, and I don't regret watching it. So if that's your cup of tea, if that kind of stuff is your cup of tea, the giant robots, the silly story, the kids never once questioning anything, just immediately accepting every weird thing as if it's already, never asking any questions, like ever. Like if that kind of thing is your bag, just like, hey, fun explosions, all right, credits. Fucking go for it, because it is a fun watch. I would give it like 2.5 perfect sets of thighs and
Squishing
3 perfect racks. I don't know if I'm going with 2.5 or 3, just because I really enjoy the villain so much, and just because this is short, I think it would have been benefited from being at least maybe 10 instead of 12. But I'll give it 3. I'll say 3 perfect sets of thighs and boobs on 2 different characters out of 5.
Wonderful. All right. We will. So I'll talk a little bit too. I'll give my review, and then we'll do a little spoiler section talking about what we thought of the ending, what we thought it entailed, and what it might have meant for like the overall idea of the show, and then we'll move on to Goblin Slayer. But I agree with what Shawn says. I think that it definitely is a niche show, but if you're into that niche where it will resonate with you, I think it will resonate well because of the idea that, again, the fights are cool, the animation's cool. There's a lot of nods back to, again, old stuff revolving like Godzilla, super robots like Ultraman, or like just the big mechs. And then it's like, I loved that stuff. I loved the idea of that stuff as a kid. So I felt like I was a kid again. I felt like I was watching fucking Power Rangers, or even the little hint. There's a little hint of like Voltron / Transformers going on there too. Little spice of that going on as well. And just like everything cool about big robots punching big dinosaur-esque things. It just was fucking cool. I really liked it. I liked the twists that came into play with the main antagonist, if you can even call her that. According to the main character, if you were taking it from their perspective, she'd be an antagonist. But I like the characters. I agree with Shawn. The main character, again, he fulfilled one purpose, and that was to get in the robot Shinji. That's pretty much all he did. And he fought off the big things, and he fought off the big things. That's about it. I was really more interested in, and again, it's weird because most of the character development happens in the 2 female characters. And I mean, there's a little bit that goes on in the main character, something that's revealed about him that kind of explains why he's a dunce, and, well, not even a dunce, but just like the way he is.
Even they couldn't tell the difference between his old behavior and the new behavior, except that he had amnesia.
Yeah.
I think he was just as fucking useless before, personally. This would have been such a compelling show if we had seen it from the side character's perspective than the main character. I would really love to see that show.
Yeah. So,
like about the person that's not in the mech. What's it like being on the ground? Like in Goblin Slayer, we're watching the party that isn't main stage. And even though we don't see any epic anything, it's just kind of a day-to-day goings-on of what it's like to be a ground-level hero. Like, it's just a fascinating watch. I think it would have been equally valuable to see what it's like when you're not the Red Ranger, when you're one of the ones that stays on the ground and communicates with them in the cockpit, that guy. Like, what's his story?
Yeah, I feel you.
Or in this case, her story.
Yeah. And then we get more thighs on screen, so that's a
oh, hell yeah.
So I overall enjoyed the show. I was always looking forward to see the next week. I like the twists. I like the. I didn't really care much for the revealed main bad guy, because although he does explain his motive. Again, it's something that like. As Trigger tends to do with their shows, is like the scale or the scope of whatever's going on in the last arc of a show. A lot of the shows that they've done, the scope
skyrocket.
It always expands like a shitload. Like if you look at Darling in the Franxx, we've gone from fighting robots on Earth to now I have a giant woman robot fighting a battle across the universe compared to just fighting robots on Earth. But now we're in space and there's alien invaders. I guess spoilers. Fuck, no, whatever. No, it's been long enough. Fuck you. If you
a year later. Yeah. I will say this though: for when the villain finally explained why he was doing what he was doing, there's so many shows, so fucking many, where the villain is feeding off of emotional energy or someone's heart or whatever. And it's always just explained as that. And that's such a hokey, overused trope that to the point where it actually spoils a show for me now when somebody's like, all of your energy fuels me. Mwahaha! Cape flaps in the wind, twirls mustache.
Yeah.
Like, in this one, they finally gave an explanation that was poetic justice, that made sense in a way that I was 100% able to accept it. Like, I immediately wanted to turn to Kyle, and unfortunately watched the whole series together except for the end, so I couldn't do this with him. So I had Hector on the line, and I had to have that conversation with Hector, who did not see it, but pretended he was you and acted like he cared, so I appreciated that. But I really loved the villain's motivation, and for once it made a little bit of sense, even though they never give any backstory to the alternate universe, they never give any backstory to where they're from, which further puts a twist in the screw when you see her wake up in her world, which raises a number of questions and makes me wish I was more familiar with the core Ultraman storyline. But even with that, like, he wasn't a particularly compelling villain. Like, I did like his reasons, but outside of that, like, now is the time to end, and now you've given me enough energy, and I guess you still serve a purpose. What the fuck was your plans to do anyway? Like, what if she just kept making? I don't understand why this. Oh well, I guess it's time. I guess I'm done now. Like, is it because she's growing up? Why are you? Why is any of this happening? God, just shut up and do villain stuff. Like, it was just. They're like, oh, we're on episode 12. I guess he's got enough energy now. I don't know what he's going to do with it. But
hey. Let me get my score. Then we'll talk about that. All right. So, yeah, Trigger always does this thing where they expand the scope, like, extremely in the last arc of their show. Darling in the Franxx did it. Gurren Lagann did it.
Gurren did it better.
It did, because it even though it was still a huge jump, it made sense in that universe. There's one other that does that, I think. I can't remember its name. It escapes me now, but whatever. They do that a lot. It's weird. And this show does it too.
You know why?
Go ahead.
You know why, though, right?
Why? I don't.
Because a good majority of what Trigger does is first run shit. It's not based off of books. It's not based off of comic books. It's an original story to the anime. So they're not following a book pacing. They're following a script pacing that was written specifically for that, not based off of a pre-existing story. Most of what Trigger does is original content. Mm-hmm. So even if it's like this was part of Ultraman, but it wasn't based off of Ultraman, it's a fresh story. So it was all, there's no manga that this is coming out of. There's no light novels that this is coming out of. The same thing with Darling in the Franxx. That was fresh. They were writing the manga after the episodes came out. it was being written side by side. But like, so that's why you'll see the manga, like, it builds on what was in the show, and actually sometimes follows it a little too closely in areas where they could do more, because it was written based off of the show and not vice versa.
Interesting. All right, so I would probably give Gridman, again, as from a fan's perspective, I'd probably give it like I'd give it 4 manically depressed gods out of 5. Yeah, I'd probably give it 4 out of 5. 4 manically depressed gods out of 5. So, real quick, now we've kind of dropped little hints of spoilers, but nothing big. This will be a big spoiler right here. We're going to talk about the last episode and how the show ended, and the little like twist, kind of, because we knew what she was, but we didn't expect it to be to that degree. Blah blah blah. There's a twist, so we're going to talk about that, what we thought it meant, and we'll go into that. So if you are some reason still around for the Gridman or for all that Gridman discussion, and now is the big time to dip out. If you don't want the rest of the ending of the show ruined, come back and like give it a few minutes. I'll probably put a time code in the description. Just get past that spoiler and then look for that time below. So Shawn, we have the final episode. The big bad is defeated, right?
Yep.
Throughout you find out actually probably about halfway through the show, we find out that Akane, the one that you come to understand is creating the kaijus, the antagonist, the one that's wiping out the town. The people that she targets in these attacks, when they die, they disappear, and they're literally removed from existence. They like die not removed from existence. They die earlier in life, and it's like the family has almost adjusted to their death, them being gone.
No, the family doesn't remember them at all.
No, they have pictures of them.
No, they don't. That was the thing. Like, either their existence is erased entirely, or they remember them as having died from illness or something.
Yeah, but they still existed though. Like, one of them still existed. I don't remember if one of them actually
there was another one that nobody had any memory of. Like, people asked them about it and they didn't know who it was.
That's interesting. But yeah, so they're gone. Whatever, they no longer exist in the current timeline, at least. And so people start dying. Obviously, it's not a good thing, because a few of the Rika's friends have disappeared in this event. And so they stop her. Gridman works together, and they stop these big kaiju from completely wiping out the city. You find out eventually that Akane is a god, literally a god, like Haruhi Suzumiya shit, and she controls this world. Not only did she create this city, she created everyone within it, the kaiju that destroy it, and a set of kaiju that work to rebuild it. So you learn that about halfway, I would say. So now we know that Akane, literally a god, has control over all this, and she's being kind of manipulated, almost puppeteered by this dude, Alexis Kirib, who they don't really ever explain. We just know that Gridman needs to remove him from this world. Now, one thing that I thought of when I saw this, and I discussed it with someone else in a Discord, talking about it, is that there's this idea, there's a theory that goes around that if a person, like, it's the thought that our minds are stronger than we think in some elements, and if we devote enough attention to something, right, when we create that thing, if there's enough attention devoted to it, creatively, right, it creates a parallel universe where that world exists. It's like a thing that it's an idea, like a theory again. And I think that this might be hearkening to that, the idea that this is her world that she created. Now, I don't necessarily know if she found a way to insert herself into her world, or if her being there was her creatively expressing like herself into the world, right? She was inserting herself into the story and creating that story, that world around that idea. And then it was almost as a therapeutic tool to help her, at least in that instance of her, deal with what the issues she was having. And I think, I don't necessarily think that Gridman was part of her story. I think Gridman is almost like this interdimensional cop, right? That's hopping around in between these parallel universes. Alexis Kirib, the big bad, managed to get into this little pocket, like reality marble that she created, and was manipulating her. Now, I'm probably completely.
That's actually not what happened.
I'm probably completely wrong. But do, at least for the idea that we know she created the world. Do you? The
companion materials that I read say that Gridman, who was at one point in time just one entity, one personality, and Alexis Carib, Gridman was chasing Carib. Carib brought her there. He found her. She was in a weakened emotional state over something that we never know.
Okay.
But she was basically super depressed. He saw an opportunity, gave her the tools and the utensils, and to make her own world, right?
Okay.
And then she could make and remodel the world to try and fill that hole in her heart until it was perfect for her, so to speak. But it was never going to be because of the way she was feeling. Like, you can't find perfection when you are seeing yourself as the biggest flaw.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And they don't tell you what the damage was or why she was depressed or what kind of... I mean, you really don't ever understand what kind of issues you have, except, you know, the hero is totally accepting her and loving her regardless of her mistakes is what really turned it around. But, I mean, and this is after they find out that they're not real humans, that there is no real Earth for them to return to, and that they're stuck in this artificial reality.
Yeah.
And they still accepted her. But she is supposed to be from the same world that Gridman and Carib is from.
Okay.
Which is what makes that twist ending more confusing for me, is because they all came from, I don't remember what it was that they called it, the something universe, the Ultra universe, or they call it a couple of times, they mention it. We have to return to the something universe or whatever. But that's what Gridman's from. That's where his other pieces of his personality are from. And when he came through chasing Carib, that's when his personality got split into the independent
5 pieces.
personalities. Yeah. And then he found the one guy who wasn't under Shinji? Was Shinjo? Shinjo's influence. Akame Shinjo.
Oh, yeah, Akame, yeah.
Yeah, he found the one person that wasn't under her influence that he could fuse with because he couldn't maintain his form there because he had been split. The other ones were able to manifest as bodies because it was an environment that supported artificial bodies, and then they became independent entities. I don't know if they formed back into one person when he left or not. And what's his face? The dude that was a kaiju and then became human.
Oh, Antony.
Antony is that place's new defender now, but there's no bad guys. There's just the maintenance kaiju, the girl, and him. So I don't know what would happen to that world, because I mean it's basically just like 20 or 30 city blocks and then nothing.
Yeah.
Everything else has to be created out of existing space.
Well, one thing they do show, they show a scene where it goes from straight grid. When she leaves, it manifests into an actual world. They show a scene.
I didn't notice that.
Well, they had the whole. I had not too long, just watched it. After she had left, she had removed herself from the environment, the worlds. And they had a scene where it had cut out, it zoomed out, and it showed the block, and all around surrounding them, they had that weird grid shit, right? The stuff that was not created yet. It had filled out into an actual Earth. You can see clouds. What?
Was it a globe? Like, did she make a planet?
I could assume so. Maybe she completed the creation and let it exist to itself. I have no idea, but they showed that scene where the grid fills out into an actual like copy of Earth, and the city in the sky disappears, the one that like the reflection almost, and then again,
I think that was the machinery that was making the stuff, because they don't explain that shit either. There's so much shit that just doesn't get any explanation.
A lot of it you have to just kind of assume, but they have the the world does fill out. So that's why I had thought that it was like she had let her creation just exist in itself, kind of, and she left it to be what it was because she couldn't be in there anymore. I do remember
some dialogue about the fact that she would have to do that. I thought she said that too.
She was talking to Rika. She said she had to leave.
Rika, yeah.
And Rika gave her the present.
Something about, can it exist by itself, or is it okay for it to exist by, or some shit like that. I don't remember. I did like Rika's way of using something negative as a positive about, will we meet again? And she's like, well, what my final wish is, what I want most is what I hope doesn't happen. Because if she did come back to meet them again, that would mean that there was something broken in her life again. And Rika didn't want that for her.
That's why I almost thought of it again as like a therapeutic tool. Like it was something she created, and in its first,
even if it really wasn't though.
But
the only thing that made it therapeutic was them.
But therapeutic
them
doesn't
turning around and breaking what she was doing.
But therapeutic doesn't necessarily have to mean beneficial. Like if her destroying that world was giving her joy, which it was initially, then it was technically
it wasn't healing her.
No, it wasn't. But it whatever. It was beneficial for her in that state. And then eventually, when her creation understood that it was a creation, and they come back and basically help her mend the issues that she had within her heart, she didn't need that anymore. She didn't need that place anymore. Right. So she kind of finished the creation and let it exist as its own thing. That's I don't know. And there's like the possibility that because I don't know, man. Fuck. Like she had friends, or she wanted friends, and she got them, and they were within the creation that she created. The whole thing felt like it was something that she was using as a tool to help her. And initially, it wasn't, because she was going about it the wrong way, and eventually, it turned around to helping her realize
against her will, no less.
Yeah,
I don't think she created it to help her. I think she created it as a catharsis. Like, she was miserable.
That's
that. So
better.
She was going to make a place that wasn't going to be miserable, and then it ended up being fake. And so she kept trying to rework it so that it felt real. Again, none of this is explained, but and of course, it was never going to feel real, because you manufactured their personalities, you manufactured who they are. They're all supposed to love you. So as soon as somebody legitimately loves you for real, that becomes a threat without you understanding why. And Gridman was never there to stop her. He just forgot why he was there because plot reasons, and then remembered. What was it? Was it that something happened when he disappeared for a while, and that's when he remembered when they came back or some shit?
Well, he awoke.
He went inside of what's his name. He lost his memory.
Yeah, it's because I think he was originally fractured in order to get in, and then they repaired. I'm trying to think. So I know they
was when what's his face was comatose or some shit.
Yeah, he was stabbed. Remember, he got stabbed.
Oh, that's what did it. That's what woke him up. What made him remember. Yeah.
Yeah, Akane stabbed him, trying to kill him, and he was hospitalized. And then Kaiju started. It was basically like a boss rush. All the old Kaiju came up and started fucking up the city again. And then his eyes turned yellow, and he was Gridman. So.
Yeah, and then like at the very last minute when he was fighting Carib, he dropped all the extra armor, all the extra stuff that he was when he was normal Gridman, and he became pretty much the spitting image of Ultraman, like that thin Japanese guy in a latex suit. Yeah, like he just when everything combined into one personality, or at least one entity with 5 personality. Because I think they were still separate at the end. They were because they left together.
Yeah.
When they fused back, at least temporarily, he became a new version of Ultraman and did like some Ultraman ninja shit, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that last ending part, she woke up in a normal Japanese apartment as a normal Japanese girl, like nothing particularly special, and and it looked like it was modern times, which makes me wonder where all the sci-fi shit came from, if they all came from the same universe, as the companion materials state.
Yeah, I was under the impression it was like, again, the whole idea with like you put enough attention to something, you create your own little reality marble parallel universe. And I thought this is exactly what that was, but I didn't look at any of the companion materials. So the only thing that made me think,
I was trying to add depth where there was none, and that was the only way for me to help. And when I found it, I was like, "Oh, there just isn't any." Okay, all right, I guess I'll accept that. But that last episode, like I said, I think the series would have worked masterfully as a decently sized film. Like, I think they could have condensed all of that shit into a much better story as a movie than trying to stretch it out over a show. But for the Power Rangers fans and the Ultraman fans, this is like an exact fusion between those two types of things, the Super Sentai and Ultraman, and it's got the big goofy armor things and the really dumb enemy things, and like everything is intentionally made to look dumb in the fun way. Like it's a nostalgia trip. But the thighs are fantastic, the boobs are fantastic. They're not fan service, they're not ecchi, they're just fucking there in a beautiful, wonderful way.
All right.
That I wish was in more animation.
All right. So, Gridman, you like kaiju, you like big mechs, and those two things punching each other. I recommend it. All right. So, now we have Goblin Slayer. The first season recently ended. We had caught up and finished it. Yeah. It was good.
I can summarize Goblin Slayer in a nutshell.
Goblin Slayer.
All the people that you never see on camera during Berserk, this is what they're doing. Goblin Slayer is not about the hero who slays the demon lord and saves the world. It's not about the guy who runs off and rescues the damsel and fights the dragons and saves Rapunzel. It's not about that dude. It's about the people you see walking along in the background that are also dressed in hero gear, but you never know what their story is. They're walking behind them in the guild hall. They are walking down the street, obviously going off to have some kind of adventure that we're never told about. Like, these are the background characters. These are all just these standard characters in every fantasy anime that's ever existed. They're a party, they go off, they do stuff, but you never find out about it because you're watching about the big, badass, gifted Kiritos and such in your standard shonen or fantasy anime. And what Goblin Slayer does is go, these are what normal working people do in a fantasy world that is fighting against bad guys. You know, they take out the low-class monsters. They do pest control. They occasionally rescue a wagon that's beset upon by goblins. They employ interesting Holmesian deductions on how to use devices because they're secretly geniuses who use take controls. Like, it is about the other guys in a way that I don't think I've really ever seen any other show do, because, I mean, everyone kind of notes that these heroes are fairly unremarkable in the general scheme of things. You know, they're not the ones that are assigned these massive tasks. Like, Goblin Slayer himself considers himself to only have one purpose, because he is a severely PTSD scarred motherfucker. Whereas most people, when they have PTSD, they shut down. With him, he has tunnel vision. There is one thing he wants to do. He does not pursue romance. He barely pursues friendship, like only when people refuse to disappear. He is not concerned with other people's well-being unless it happens to coincide with what he's doing. Like, he doesn't even think to him to go and do something altruistic. He's almost a robot. He has one mission. Everything is about that mission. And rarely you'll see him just barely pop open a crack and show that he's still a human being inside, because he is so fucked up by what happened. And I'm not going to spoil what happened, because it's maybe when we talk about spoilers, but it is something that is so severe and happened to him when he's so young that you can understand when he's like, I think he was 27 or something like that. You can understand why he is so damaged in the way that he is.
I don't think we need spoilers for Goblin Slayer again.
No, really, we don't. And that damage drives him to do one specific thing, and that is annihilate goblins.
Yeah.
And if you think of goblins as in terms of elemental, like they have intelligence. They have what I would consider to be like a slow human intelligence. You know, I wouldn't put them on like way down on the scale, but they're fairly slow. They're not in complex mathematics. They work with rudimentary tools. They have a spoken language. They have the ability to work with simple machines. And if they're taught, they can work with some complex machines. They have some rudimentary magic skills, mostly shamanistic, but they're barbarian. But outside of that, because they are elementally evil, unlike most sentient beings in the world of Goblin Slayer, they do not have a choice as to making moral or immoral questions. Because they are elementally evil, that means they are born evil. When they come out, as they grow, they're concerned stealing, murdering, raping, pillaging. Like, these are the only things they care about. And it's a very tribal structure, and they do not have a choice in the matter. They will always be evil. So it puts this interesting perspective into play, whereas in most fantasy shows, if you're intelligent, you have a choice. And so when you're fighting these things, it adds a layer to the complexity of the combat. But in this, he is wiping out something that absolutely is a scourge upon humanity. And whereas most heroic main heroes don't consider goblins something worth their, when you see the damage that they do on a daily basis to the populace, it's horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying what these things are capable of, and they're just considered vermin by most of your heroes. They're busy taking on demon Dracoliches and these giant fucking nemesis. Goblin Slayer doesn't care, and he ends up gathering this crew who are also backstage characters, extras on the scene, and they kind of join him on these adventures. But none of them are epic adventures. They're not these grand. They're more utilitarian in nature, and it's really interesting to see how this guy, who at first you think has no dimensions to him, shows that he is very, very adaptive. He's highly intelligent, but he only uses it towards a specific purpose. You could almost consider it savant. Whereas he sees things like how ice cream is made, or how flour works, or how dust in the air works, and he learns to apply things in very unconventional ways in his war against goblins. And I think because that is such a unique idea, that it becomes really entertaining to watch them go about these non-epic quests. And I know that doesn't sound like all that great, but if you could give it like 3 or 4 episodes, you'll see what I mean. Like, it's really worth watching. Like, I really enjoy it. It really does feel like what you're not seeing in Berserk. This is what the normal people do. Like, I kind of like that, and it's really it's animated very well, except for this weird thing that Kyle and I are constantly griping about, where it will just spontaneously switch back and forth between the hand-drawn digital animation and then this real shitty CG tank that just walks around. And he's the only one they do it to. Nothing else is CG in the entire fucking show. Just him.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
It's weird because he can even be completely motionless. And like, if you look at like the reflection of the light in the environment on his body, you can see that his model is a CG motionless model standing there. And usually with CG, that's why I feel this has to be a fucking stylistic choice for one reason or another. Because usually with CG, the implementation of CG in shows is to save money, or it's a stylistic choice. But if you literally have a CG model just standing there in one frame and then cutting to another frame where he's still standing there, but now he's hand drawn, there's got to be something fucky going on there. And it's just
so weird.
It will
really
definitely
is.
The first couple times you see it, it will put you off, because in like the first fight, he's CG through most of the fight, and then there's some fights later on where he's not CG. It's weird. It feels like it will put you off, but I think that I wasn't here for the I didn't watch this show for what am I trying to say? The spectacle of the fights. It was much more the technical aspect of the fights, seeing how he comes to his plans, how they deal with the goblins, learning how the goblins work in this world and how to properly deal with him. This man, through and through, has devoted his life to understanding these creatures in and out so that he can eradicate them. And understanding...
And they do make them out to be terrifying. Like, more... I found it's hard to be scared by a cartoon, you know? And I've seen a lot of horror cartoons that were creepy. I've never understood the level of fear that a character has or that an enemy is supposed to portray more deeply in a show than I did with this one. And you need to understand, they don't hold any punches. That warning that they show before the show is there for a fucking reason.
Yeah.
Like, in the very first episode, and they call back to it, and they show you the aftermath of some things later on where you understand that was not a one instance thing, that this is happening constantly. But there is something extremely vile and disgusting that happens in the first episode. And whereas they don't lovingly caress it like they do in more adult-oriented fare, hentai and such, they don't hold any punches. There is some really just horrifying in a way that I don't have a way to put words. We use horrifying all the time these days because so many bad things happen that I think the word's losing some of its power. But goblins are terrifying in this show. They're terrifying because of what they represent and how they go along nearly unchecked. You know, it's very intense as to how bad these things are. And if there aren't people like Goblin Slayer out there doing this, then there would be death and torture on an unprecedented scale. Like, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's why the book, when it came out, made so many waves, is because it told the story in a way that hasn't been done before about characters that haven't been talked about before. And it did not hold any punches. It's a little reflective of, when you think about the lives that we live and the lives that our listeners live, we don't have what's on the news in front of our faces personally every day, right? But if we did, right, if our next door neighbors were being murdered and our sister had been held hostage and raped and then beheaded on TV, if all of these horrible things that we consistently hear about on television and the news every day was happening on our block, our world would be a little bit like what these people have to live in. You know, so it really brings that gravity home that this is not a safe world. And it's what these normal Joes do when they put on armor and they go out there and risk everything and most of the time die, that keeps the side characters safe. Excuse me. And I think it draws that comparison very clearly, because while he's out there risking his life, it's constantly going back to this girl who's been, I don't even know if you would call her a friend anymore. I think she is his lifeline. The one person from when he was a child that is still alive.
Oh, yeah.
That he has any kind of connection to, you know? She's the last bit of his humanity. And as long as he's out there doing this, he's keeping her safe.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You know, like, and you really get, I think that's why the show works as well as it does, is because you have that subtle depth in there that's written in there. And that's why I think it's almost a must watch as long as you can stomach it, because there is some dark shit in here. So dark that there were times when I would make light of it just so it was easier to watch. And I mean, you can ask the people that I hang out with all the time. I'm an emotionally sensitive person, and so there are instances where if Kyle or I were in the same position, we would have been bigger bitches than the people in the show were. Like, this one girl wets herself when she's fucking terrified. I would have done worse. So it's just I really like it, and I give it 4.5 cheese wheels for lizard men out of 5.
Oh, that man. Holy nectar.
Yes, yeah, dude. That was just when they did throw thank God, thank you, Lord Jesus, they did not try and throw comic relief in there all the time. Like they did it sparingly, and when they did, it was like this refresher. Like it helped wash some of the emotional weight of previous scenes off. Like it was paced very, very well. It's a good show.
Yeah, it was,
and it does tell a story, a unique story from a unique perspective that you're not going to get a lot. And that's why I think it's a must watch.
And it's interesting because the comedy is almost always done to define character. It's not thrown in there. They're not
making them more human.
They're not trying to make light of anything that's going on. They're trying to build the character of the team that Goblin Slayer has put together, or has fallen into his lap, is a better way of describing that. But the people around Goblin Slayer showing who they are as they interact with one another. Some of the better moments of the show are this team of people just talking shit to each other, interacting with each other as they go on their adventures, and learning to live with one another as they're on this team for the most part. And those interactions I enjoyed a lot. I really like the supporting characters in the show. It's almost more like Goblin Slayer is the supporting character. He's just the main driver of the plot. But because he doesn't say shit except okay. Yeah.
He does. You do learn in like the very last few, that there is something in him that still feels.
Oh no, definitely.
And maybe one day he'll make a little bit of a recovery, but I really don't have a hope that the person that he is will ever be able to be a complete human being again. What he had to endure, and what he's had to endure since then, which just hardens the cement, the knowledge that he carries with him every day is too much for, I think, a normal person to bear. And even the characters he's surrounded by, you can tell these are not epic heroes. These are people who have talents. They're able to do stuff. It's like you watch Die Hard and Bruce Willis is in the building and he's doing the epic hero shit. These guys are the ones that are outside. They're getting shot at from windows. They're dying by the droves by random terrorists. These are all of the supporting cast that's in the background getting shot or helping the heroes. That's these guys. So you never get the feeling that any of them is overly strong. And anytime they're up against an enemy, they never dispatch it too easily. And like foot soldiers is one thing. Small bands that are by themselves is one thing. And they fight like what you would expect an extremely experienced soldier to be able to do. But they're also very easy to kill. And they have limitations out the wazoo. None of them are overpowered. And even Goblin Slayer seems like he's OP at first until you figure out that he's really just extremely determined. Like he is a little bit OP, I'll give you that, but he can die. He came close to dying several times when he overextended himself, but he just never thinks about it. And when he is going through extreme amounts of pain, he just powers through it because the guy is a broken man. And the brain has incredible power. You never get the feeling that he's immortal. And you never get the feeling that he can't die. And especially the other ones, like, at a moment's drop of the hat, any of the supporting cast that end up being in his party for some reason or another, they just decide to stick together. All of the other heroes in the show, at a moment, every scene, I never knew if they were going to kill someone or not. Like, it didn't matter how many shows they've been in, I feel like they could easily kill any of them. They could all die in any moment. It's like watching a fucking show about cops.
Attack on Titan, but with goblins.
Yeah, a little bit. I think Attack on Titan's got a much more grandiose concept behind it. And and ordinarily, you know me, dude, I love my shit epic. Like, I get a boner over epic shit. So it's rare for me to watch a smaller story and appreciate it this much. And I was disappointed by Spider-Man Homecoming because they tried the same approach. We're going to do a smaller story. And I think they did it a little bit better with the Ant-Man shows. And in this, they did the smaller story version of an epic fantasy in anime, and they just did it very, very well. And I think the only way to really bring home how fairly ordinary these heroes are is to show you how very deadly the rest of their world is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got the normal folk who are they're level 0. If this was a video game, they would be the NPCs that sell you apples and shit who can't defend themselves. These characters are the guards walking around Skyrim. They just have more than 3 things to say.
Yeah.
But you've seen how frequently the guards in Skyrim die. this show makes no bones about the fact that heroes are dying constantly. So it just, it has a lot of, I don't know, it's got a lot of gravity to it. I really enjoy it, but I've said enough. I really can't glow enough about this show. It's not a feel-good show, but it does feel good that I watched it, and I really hope to see more adventures with these people. But the way they did the season, they did it as a snapshot of these folks' lives from this point to this point. And even if it never went any further, it feels complete enough that I would be fine. But it's been so popular that I'm sure it will be. The manga is still making, levels. So
yeah, I would...
Sorry, Zim decided to join the podcast. The manga is still doing well.
Yeah. They said anyway, at the end of the first season that a second was coming. Like, look out for season 2. Yeah,
Goblin Slayer will.
Yeah, so no, I wholeheartely would agree with a lot of what Shawn was saying. There was a definite gravity to a lot of the show. Understanding, like they kind of settle you in right off the bat. Like, you are in for a ride,
brutally,
and you should fear what these characters have to go through. You should understand that this is not. There's a very human aspect to the show, even a very human and real aspect to the show, even it being something set in a medieval timeline, a kind of fictional universe. These characters struggle with PTSD. These characters struggle with fear, understanding that the next adventure might kill them, understanding that death does lurk around many of the corners they turn, and it's something that they reinforce through a lot of the show too. You see them go in a dungeon, it's not only them in a dungeon, you got dead bodies, legitimate dead bodies, not skeletons, but you have recent dead corpses, people, like, there's this constant smell of utter danger and dread going on, and it is no bueno if you're of the faint of heart, because it's some fucked up stuff going on. And I like that dark tone, and I like that there's a constant suspense, because there's not you never feel like it's going to take a shonen trope where it's like, oh, we got a fight going on, we're going to have a power struggle. One character's going to be like, oh, you yelled at my mom, and then he's going to upgrade to level 2, and he's going to have a whole new set of powers, and he's going to kill the bad guy. You don't know here. You can have a character have their arm removed in one fight, and then now all of a sudden there's a shitload of additional struggles going on, and it's just constant stress. Now, don't let that deter you, because I think that overall the story is really good, and it's more of like the edge of your seat kind of like, holy shit, I can't wait to see what happens next. More of holy shit.
You used the right word though. It does feel stressful at times to watch it, because you really don't know what they're going to do next, or what might happen to these characters next. It is not like Sword Art or Dragon Ball or something else, where you're either A, absolutely certain the heroes are going to always overcome, or B, know that the hero can just be wished back. Like, there's no dramatic tension in shows like those. You're never concerned about what's going to happen to the main characters, because you know they're always going to make it out. Like, their strengths lie elsewhere. But in shows like this, or to a somewhat lesser extent, you look at shows like Hunter x Hunter, and you just never know what's going to happen to a character, if they're going to snap, if they're going to die. You really don't know, because nobody is safe in Goblin Slayer. There is no safety. Like, that's one of the things I loved about Hunter x Hunter, was there was no character that was safe, and established long-running characters that have shown up periodically can just be killed off. Like in the Chimera Ant arc, they diced an assload of hunters in like in like several episodes, just like boom, 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 gone. Ones that you have seen since the first season, long-running supporting cast just disappear. And in this show, and fuck, I thought, what's his name, Shoot, was gonna die when he took on that Pinky dude. In this one, was his name Pinky? Fuck, I can't even remember. In this one, it's even much more dramatically so, because you don't have any OP characters. Like, all the OP characters, the overpowered villains, the overpowered heroes, they're all off fighting a fight somewhere else. You know, they exist. The show says they're there. You see them in the very beginning episode and the very end episode. They show them a little bit. just to let you know, like, hey, this other anime, this is happening, but that's not what you're watching.
It's funny how
you're watching this other thing.
Even the character design of those heroes look different in a way. Like they don't feel like, it was weird. It's just like they almost look like
much more typical.
Yeah, they almost look like high school girls. Like this one with the big ass sword sees the hero, and it's interesting because they even nod back to the show as a whole, where those heroes do return from the big battle, and they mention the idea that there was a big fight that happened, and if something went wrong, the whole town could have been destroyed. And these heroes are like, oh shit, yeah, there aren't just the main defining like end of the world battles. There are always these smaller supporting battles that are being fought all over this universe, and it's interesting that again you see just a snippet of the gigantic one, or like the world defining one, and then you have these small gorilla-esque, like very stressful human fights going on day to day, and just seeing those and seeing how these people can't just level up, can't just power up through willpower, stuff like that. They have to fight smartly. They have to use the tools that they have at their disposal. Every tool has a use. Every tool has an amount of uses. You constantly have a list of things that you have. A Goblin Slayer has at his disposal that he has to manage, resources-esque. Like, we have a healer. She can only heal like 3 times, bro. And those heals aren't guaranteed to save you if you suffer a fatal blow.
Even the mage's spells weren't like titanically. He couldn't summon like giant demons or dragons or shoot giant fireballs. He could make cement and throw rocks and stuff like that. They were much more banal abilities that were being used. Like his magic was useful, but it wasn't high magic. He wasn't an archmage. He was just a working mage. Then you had that lizard guy who was like a battle shaman or something. He could summon like little bone soldiers and do some nasty shit with a sword and love cheese. And their most diverse character besides Goblin Slayer was the Ranger. Like she was good at tracking, she was good at finding traps. She was your stereotypical D&D elf. She was a little arrogant, very like like that elf dwarf thing. They threw that in there just as love for people who grew up on fantasy, with the elf and the dwarf like being best friends but constantly ribbing each other. Like it's just a really good show.
Yeah, definitely. If you're any type of fan of D&D, like high fantasy stuff like Lord of the Rings, I've even heard from some people that there were like small references here and there to like Lord of the Rings-esque material. I'm not too big on that stuff, so I'm not too sure, but it's definitely, if you're into the
little shout outs just for the fans. They weren't tying it into any one universe.
And even if you're not into that, I think that the show still is a must watch, just because of this isn't something you see in anime often. Like Shawn was saying, it's definitely unique in the aspect that it's presenting and the perspective it's presenting, and I think that it definitely creates a very, very stressful but like redeemingly interesting and like rewarding watch. Like the last episode was awesome.
It feels realistic.
It does.
For a fantasy show to feel realistic is interesting.
Yeah.
And it feels realistic. And there's a lot more, like there's so much in a show like this that they could put in there that needs to be there, but you also have to think about time. Like you don't, they mention the shopping and going to do it, but you don't see them doing it. A lot of the banal stuff that I think would build the level of grit and reality of the world, they just didn't have time for. I think if they had shown that, it would have reinforced the concepts. But I think if you're an intelligent viewer, you're going to get it anyway. Like, it's not about the fine details. It's building these characters and showing you what these characters have to go through. In a sense, this is more of like a drama almost than something else. But instead of you showing the drama of their day-to-day lives when they get off work, you're seeing them while they're at work. You're seeing the shit they have to deal with while they're at work. And the show constantly uses this metaphor of dice, like rolling dice, because everything they're doing is chance. Everything they're doing is chance. And the basic metaphor is that the gods are rolling dice, and the gods are used to having to manipulate or alter fates or control the fates of certain characters, and that of all characters, of anyone who moves and shakes the world, the gods are constantly vying for control of that person's fate and fucking with it and that kind of thing. And you're used to seeing gods meddle in fate all the time in high fantasy. And in this show, the one character that they can't, the only person in that whole world that they can't fuck with because he is so broken is Goblin Slayer. And they're constantly rolling dice, fucking with chance, and they can't predict where his fate's going to take him. Like, it's very, very interesting that way. But I think we have we've glowed on it. I know I've given it cheese wheel ratings. I don't know if you gave it a rating yet, but I think we had 2 other video game things to cover, news things.
Yeah, we do. We're like a video game podcast and stuff. No, I'm just playing.
Well, not just video game. We're a geek podcast, but yeah, I got
I'm fucking around. All right, yeah.
For once, I'm trying to help move, because I think we could have another half hour's worth of conversation on a Goblin Slayer easy, but it would be beating a dead horse at that time, gilding of the lily, so to speak.
I recommend Goblin Slayer. I recommend Gridman. If
Goblin Slayer honestly tells it's a better watch than Berserk. Berserk may have a better story and stronger characters that develop more, but Berserk is so difficult to watch because of the animation that they use. At least in Goblin Slayer, it's like randomly assaults your eyes. It's not constantly.
Yeah, seriously.
I'll still watch Berserk, and I still love Berserk, but I'm telling you right now, it's not the animation.
That's the dice roll that you're getting. If it lands on like a 2 or a 6, that's when they assault you.
Is he going to be a tank this time? Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, we got odds. All right, you're safe. Yeah, so wait, he's got to shrug his shoulders. Tank mode.
Yeah, I didn't have too many problems with the show. I'm a bit more lenient with my reviews or my like ratings. I'd give Goblin Slayer. I was gonna say something that was fucked up, but spoiler, so I don't want to do that.
Sacks of flour.
I thought of one. Y'all know the existence of goblins. Yep, awful people. I'm gonna give this show 5 sexually assaulted vaginas out of 5.
Oh God, poor taste. Too soon. You gotta have a strong stomach for this show, in a way that's very different from, although very similar, now that I think about it, to Berserk. Berserk only assaults you with it once and then implies it everywhere else.
So I definitely recommend watching both these anime. If they sound interesting to you, give it a shot. They're both on Crunchyroll.
What was your rank? 4 out of 5?
5 out of 5. 5 sexually assaulted vaginas out of 5.
Well, I did a 4.5. I think the only thing that would have made it better was for them to kind of. If we have to look at things from a critical eye, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of them developing outside of work. A little bit more of what his life is like, rather than just telling us he does the same thing every day. I'd like to see what his life is like when he's not hunting goblins, but I think they really told us everything that they could. So that's kind of nitpicking.
All right. So good shows. We both enjoyed them. We're going to move forward. We have 2 news articles to talk about. One of them we're going to spend a little bit more time with Sam's question. And I don't know, the main topic might as well be the fucking anime reviews at this point, to be honest.
It became Goblin Slayer. You're welcome, Goblin Slayer. Free promotion.
Yeah. 2 idiots review Goblin Slayer. But so we have 2 things that happened last week that were interesting, relatively. One big thing that happened was Bungie and Activision have split. Bungie, and the good news is, unlike previous splits, Bungie gets to keep Destiny. Bungie is now 100% in control of Destiny and its future. I've also seen some articles coming out that they were talking about updates staying the same. They're keeping their release schedule as tight as possible to not let this deteriorate anything too much. A lot of it is they are going to keep this as it is. I've also heard some people coming out and saying,
maybe I'll come back now.
I've heard people coming out and saying that they're predicting we might see a Destiny 3 in like 2020 or something, although I don't know about that. But that'd be interesting to see like a fully realized just Bungie Destiny game, because Destiny 1, Destiny 2, Activision have been a part of for their entire existence. So it'd be interesting to see, with everything that Bungie has been through at this point, would they be able to fully revitalize this project back to...
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Was the project ever revitalized?
Been damaged to the point where faith in the brand is not going to come back with Destiny. Like, the problems I have with Destiny haven't gone away. And maybe Activision had something to do with a lot of that, and maybe they didn't. I don't know how much of it was Activision. I know Activision had a strong hand in the fuck-up between Destiny and Destiny 2, but I don't know. I really don't. It's hard. My faith in the brand has been shattered. But if Destiny creates, I mean, if Bungie makes a new product, I would openly consider it. But I don't know if they're going to be able to fix the damage that was done to Destiny.
I don't know. Real quick,
I don't know.
Let me read Sam's question before we continue. He chimed in again earlier. He said, "Hey nerds, I heard some interesting news. Activision and Bungie are splitting up, and Destiny is going with Bungie. I need you video game nerds to explain to me what this could mean. You think Bungie would drop the use of microtransactions and paywalls? Will they take an approach that is consumer friendly, or do you think Activision rubbed off some of their business practices on Bungie? Tell me what you think, or I'll give you a lemon and chocolate swirly." How fucking rude. Have a good week, nerds.
Lemon and chocolate swirly? What is that, like piss and shit in the fucking toilet bowl?
Pee and poo in the toilet bowl. But whose pee and poo is it? Because if it's Sam's pee and poo, I might be more sexually inclined to accept the swirly than if it was my pee and poo. So I need some explanation on that question.
Damn it.
But I don't really have a big problem with the microtransactions in Destiny, because they're mostly cosmetic. Now, the paywalls, I'm never a fan of. I could see them, again, talking about wanting to kind of rebuild the brand that's been so fatally wounded at this point with people. I can imagine them releasing a game and doing something completely absurd, like Destiny 3 is out.
They should make Marathon.
That'd be cool, although...
They should bring that back.
But I can see them releasing like Destiny 3 and going like, I don't know, like I can't even imagine what they would do, because the system that they have now kind of makes sense for continued content, obviously. Like they need to, like, you can't just keep creating free content that's like really well done, full quotations, and expect to make profit to continue the development of it. They might make it where Destiny 3 is just a gigantic game, and then maybe instead of doing like these games of service, maybe pushing out a new Destiny every few years.
They should reboot it.
I don't know.
They should do a hard reboot. Just leave everything they've done behind and start something new.
And make Destiny like Overwatch.
No. God, no. Destiny Watch.
But
Destiny.
No. I can't see them dropping microtransactions. The paywalls are interesting because, for the most part, from what I understand, they're no longer in the game. Like, they've been removed. At least, like, the current ones, they don't have a full effect on the game. But the idea of the game is the way that it's built. Like, you have to gate off content. But, like, you can't just let people walk into new content if it's like a games of service. That's the whole idea of a games of service like model. So I don't necessarily I can't really see them, again, like if they go for a hard reboot, then yeah, that's fine. They'd have to do, if they do something along those lines, which I highly doubt, because Destiny is ingrained in like what like it is a games of service. That's just how it is. It's a light MMO looter shooter. That's just how it's always been. I can't imagine them dropping that, because people like Destiny how it is now, at least. So I mean, I'm excited for Bungie fans. People that are playing Destiny are excited to see what Bungie has in tow for the future of the franchise. But I mean, I got Final Fantasy, man. You can't have too many games where you have to grind your ass off in your life, because it makes it impossible to stay up to date on like if we had Bungie, or we had Destiny and Final Fantasy, how are we expected to stay up to date with everything if they're both like super grindy, dump hundreds of hours into them in order to get to end game kind of games? So I don't know. But in regards to microtransactions and paywalls, I could see them wanting to rebuild their branding. So I could see them being a bit more consumer friendly. I think a lot of what has, again, we don't know for sure. It's possible that Bungie can be the evil mastermind here, and now Destiny's screwed and Activision was trying to help. Now, I highly fucking doubt that, because Activision has been caught multiple times on really shitty business practice. So it is highly possible.
Activision is only tiny bits better than EA. Like, Activision is just about to EA level.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft's just below them. I don't see any of them turning a new leaf ever. No.
So I think that I really think they're going to go into full recovery mode with this news and go ham on, again, brand rebuilding, making sure that the rest of Destiny 2, whatever they have planned for Destiny 2, is smooth. I was a really firm believer of, I didn't understand why they even made a sequel, and I bet you it was Activision. I'd rather them keep Destiny what it is, keep all the content, keep it like an MMO. If you have all these elements of an MMO, and you're not saying it's an MMO, but keep the good parts of an MMO at least.
Light.
Have all the content existing that you always have access to, right? And then every few years, give it a huge graphical overhaul and just let it be called Destiny. And I think that'd be cool. It's a MMO light looter shooter, and every few years it gets a full revamp. You have large expansions drop, and throughout the year you have smaller ones to keep people up to par with light level or whatever. And then every few years do a stat reduction where everyone gets dropped either item level or damage that they're doing, and you kind of push everyone back so you can re-push up like MMOs do. And I would have loved that. And then you just have people pay for expansions when they come out, make sure the expansions are good, they expand upon the universe, and people are happy. Give them interesting things to do, cool raids, like you're doing now.
I would even accept a subscription structure if it was affordable.
Yeah, I would too, to be honest. A lot of people talked about that when it was first in its prime and stuff like that. And technically, to be honest, if you're buying all the expansions, you're technically doing kind of a subscription, because the cost between their drops, they're close to what you would normally pay if you did pay for an MMO. It's not guaranteed money like for the developers. So they could work really hard on an expansion and then no one buys it. Where with a subscription fee, you kind of know, like, oh, we're going to get this much money this month, and then sometimes it teeters here and there. But you normally don't have gigantic drops in subscription fee or subscription like payers. A lot of the time but like with an expansion, they could work super hard on Forsaken, and like 25% of their player base buys it, and then now they're in a shitty situation. But then you have the other side of the argument, the consumer side, where people aren't as comfortable paying $10 or $7 a month or whatever they would end up going with, since it's not technically an MMO, into just being able to play and have access to the content. Not everyone's up to that. That's why MMOs are kind of in a weird spot. They're great games, really fun, but a lot of people are put off by a subscription fee and just having to pay every month just to have access to the game. But I think it's good news. I mean, the more that these devs can separate themselves from these companies that like to fuck with consumers, especially like EA. Like if BioWare was able to separate from EA and I knew Anthem was just being released by BioWare, I wouldn't have any fears about the game. But I have fears now because EA's name's attached to it and they're a shitty fucking piece of shit company.
There's been way too many negative things come out in the news about how they've been developing it and what they've been putting into the development for me to have any trust in that title at all. It's just constant, like finding out the positions they're hiring for, finding out the internal memos that they're not supposed to have been released, that have been leaked by people working there, about what their plans are for the game and how they're hoping for it to function and what processes they've been inspired by. And it's all of the things in games that we have played that we've hated, that have ruined games, are all of the things that Anthem's been patterned after. Like, it's so many fucking things that have come out in the last year and a half about Anthem, and it's all bad. All of it sounds really horrendous and ugly, and it's not something that you would want in a game that you're buying to play, especially a $60 title. Like, if it was $30 or free to play, then the mentality that they've got going in would make sense. But all of the from the internal memos saying about how it's been built from the ground up to be centered around microtransactions and for the business as a service to be to bilk as much money out of players on a consistent basis as possible, gating content, all these different things that people have been finding out about what they're releasing and all the positions that they've been hiring for, none of which are the kind of positions you hear about in a quality game. It's all about, trying to drain more money out of the fucking title. And when that is the focus of what you're doing and not the game itself, there's a fucking problem. And I see Anthem as, potentially being super fun to play and being really, really pretty and also being a giant carnivorous waste. And
Yeah.
I can't shake that perception of that game as being anything more than an expensive train wreck. And I'm not willing to do Destiny again like that. I'm just not.
I feel you. And I hope you don't buy it because you wouldn't have anyone to play with besides maybe Perry, but I doubt Perry would buy it. So
no, I don't think Perry'd be going in. Like,
no,
I wanted to get it for consoles until I found out EA was behind it.
Yeah. We'll definitely see. It's not going to be something I pre-order or even buy on launch day. Maybe, I don't know, maybe launch day, maybe I'll wait till reviews drop because usually there's the embargo that releases early and see what the reviews are coming out as. And then that might decide launch day. I'm definitely not pre-ordering it. I'm not about that shit. And from what I saw, the only thing that would get me to pre-order was if I knew I was already going to buy it, because usually the bonuses that you get for pre-ordering aren't anything that excites me, or if you get option to like play the game early or something like that. But I just like the concept of it so much. I really want it to do well, and we'll have to end up seeing what happens with it. But
you mean where everybody gets to be Iron Man?
Yeah, dude. Like, I watched like 25 minutes of one of the suits called the Interceptor, and you're literally Ninja Iron Man, and just seeing that made my dick so fucking hard. I just wanted to play it like at that moment. But
I haven't seen any video besides the one where they
like
fought the gorilla thing.
Oh yeah, like the fake one where they're all like talking to each other like they're actually playing and they're all actors and shit. Yeah, I hate that shit when they do that. I've seen some more. They've released like full like of the developers playing and stuff like that, like the alphas, and I watched a lot of Interceptor gameplay, and that suit looks so fucking cool. But again, we'll see what happens. But we appreciate the question, Sam. Let's get back to the article. I don't think there's anything extra here, besides a few people have talked about it. Obviously, everyone's kind of hitting up saying like, oh, this is a nice thing kind of thing. So, as I said, Bungie and Activision have split up. Going forward, Bungie will be self-publishing the Destiny franchise, and Activision's fucking off to do whatever else. There's been people talking about it all over Twitter. I know Phil Spencer kicked in, Jason Schreier kicked in, the developer behind Mass Effect, I can't pronounce his name, Monveer Hare, he piped in. One of the PR bosses at Epic Games piped in. The Epic Games president piped in. Everyone seems to be happy that evil Activision no longer has their looming hand over Bungie as a whole. So besides that, there is still ongoing support for Destiny, and Bungie is working on other games. We know that last year it got a $100 million investment from a Chinese company, NetEase, for non-Destiny projects that we still haven't heard anything about. So, hey, Shawn, your Marathon. Is it Marathon? Is that what it's called? What was it called?
Yeah, Marathon was the game their first game that they wanted to make.
There you go, bro.
Long before.
It's on its way. I'm calling it right now. Either that or a reimagining, remaster, something like that. But yeah, it's definitely, again, something that if you're a fan, that's awesome. Oh my god, I have an ad for here. Destiny 2, I can get it for $6 on Amazon. Hell yeah. It will, for those that play on PC, it will still be on the Blizzard launcher. It's not leaving from that. That's the only place to get it digitally. and that is still where it will be distributed and held, so you will not lose that game. You won't have to download a new launcher. It's not going to have its own individual. It will still exist on the Blizzard.net launcher, so you don't have to worry about it there. And you'll still get all your patches and all that through that service. So definitely an interesting story. And hopefully this shines a light on maybe other oppressed developers that kind of have an idea, maybe hopefully oppressed developers. Gamers rise up.
Well, you gotta think, man, most of them are dead now. Like Activision has made it, Activision and EA especially, but also Ubisoft, all three of them have made it a business model to, if they see something that's making money, they throw enough money at that person until they just can't justifiably say no anymore. Promise that they'll keep anonymity. I'm sorry, not anonymity. They'll keep their autonomous nature. Yeah, I
call back to last year. Last
they'll keep
week.
Their autonomy, and then anytime it doesn't go the direction that they want, or it's not making quite the billions they're supposed to make, then they lose their autonomy, and then you end up with this fucking Destiny 2 situation. Or but the thing is Bungie was able to make it out without a shutdown. Activision is notorious for shutting down anything that doesn't go their exact way. I mean, most of the time when somebody acquires a company, they buy the brands. That's basically what they're doing, and then they shut down the company. And how many, dude, I can count on, I can't even do it on two hands, how many just amazing studios were out there that Activision has murdered.
Mm-hmm.
They got the properties off of them they want, and then shut them the fuck down. The longest I think they stayed, like most of them stayed open, was maybe a year, and then they were erased. And I'm talking about legendary companies that gave us some of our best gaming memories were erased because profit. And it's disgusting to me. It is so disgusting, because this isn't just companies going out of business because money and it makes sense and blah, 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 business management. This is pieces of American culture and video game culture being erased by business suits who don't understand anything. Like, it's repugnant.
Almighty dollar,
and they
baby.
made an entire business model out of consuming, other video game companies, erasing the company itself, and then producing inferior products with that name on it. And it's disgusting.
Yeah, no,
I hope that whoever, out of like all the fallen companies like Maxis and so on that have disappeared over the last 2 decades because of Activision and EA and Ubisoft, I hope that whoever is left or whoever is up and coming sees this and says, maybe we should stay alone. Maybe no matter how much money they throw at us, maybe we should stay the fuck out of the fire, or at least have enough courage that if they're stupid enough to go into that situation, that they know that it's possible to get out.
Yeah.
And for fuck's sake, if you can get out, do it.
Yeah, get out now while you can. So one more article real quick. We have The Division 2. So we recently talked about both Epic and Discord. With their new stores opening, they're offering a better cut to developers, with Epic being between 12 and 18%, depending on the size of your company, and Discord going straight down to 10%, I think, is what, and that by 10%, I mean, or 10 and 12 to 18, I'm talking about the amount that the distributor is taking from the developers per sale, where the typical, like, Titan being Steam, they sit at 30%. So they'll take 30% of every sale. It's been like this for the most part, since its inception. They've taken 30% off of every sale, and it's gone to Steam for distributing the game. Now that Epic has come out, Discord has come out, and they are now offering better deals, we're starting to see actually big companies going over there to distribute their games. And this first big company to do this is Ubisoft, with The Division 2, has deserted Steam for the Epic Game Store, for Epic Game Stores for the PC release of Division 2. Again, Ubisoft did announce that the PC version of Division 2 will release solely on the Ubisoft Store and Epic Game Store. So unlike the original The Division, Ubisoft's upcoming third-person shooter is skipping out on releasing on Steam at all. There will not be any Steam. This was revealed in a blog post. Epic revealed that they are partnering with Ubisoft, quote, on additional titles that have not been announced, but Epic did tease that information would be coming out during the upcoming year. So it's nice to see this partnership. And again, it's always, Steam has held, it's been top dog for a very long time. And I feel like they have taken a lot of liberties in regards to making their distribution platform better, just being lazy overall when it comes to managing Steam as a whole. And I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure soon, the more we see stuff like this happen, big developers, big games launching off of Steam and on other things, or on different launchers, or just being distributed in a manner that isn't Steam, Steam will kind of be like, oh shit, we're starting to lose our footing here. We need to work on being a little bit more competitive because we're no longer the top dog. If these companies like Ubisoft and all these other companies go to Epic Games, because they know Epic has the infrastructure, go to Discord for that extra, the smaller cut to make more money per sale. I don't know how good Discord's infrastructure is, but I know Epic has that infrastructure. They know that their launches will be smooth and they're still making more money. Why the fuck not? Why would you even go to Steam? Besides the idea that your game is on Steam and the branding that comes with being on Steam. But I don't think a lot of, I don't know. I don't think a lot of I think a lot of PC gamers have just been kind of, they've just been kind of dealing, like kind of living alongside Steam just because they have to. And there haven't been any really major competitors. I don't think anyone's like has any kind of like branding allegiance to Steam. They don't like give a fuck to that degree. I know a lot of people don't like having a bunch of launchers, but if they know that the devs are making more money and that Steam, being their lazy ass selves for the past few years, will be not making as much money, I can't see people being mad that they have to download another launcher just for the game. So I think it's cool. I think this needs to be a wake up call for Valve, for Steam, and they need to kind of reassess.
Yeah, make Half-Life.
They need to reassess their position in the market for distribution and see what they want to do moving forward now that they have these major competitors that are actually stealing AAA titles from their distribution. It'd be interesting to see. So that's about it for that. The Division's launching March 15th. I don't give a fuck about this game because the Division 1 I enjoyed, but I wasn't a big fan of the gameplay loop. I heard that it got better over time. I did play it on launch, so it's possible that was the case. But like, I'm fine with bullet sponges in Destiny, and I know a lot of people use this as a complaint, but it really broke the game for me. I'm fine with bullet sponges in a game like Anthem where you're shooting giant monsters or shooting aliens or whatever. But these are like, in Division 1, you were shooting New Yorkers. Like, they had typical clothes on, and I had to put 60 bullets into this man, into his head for him to die. It consistently broke me out of the game world. It annoyed the shit out of me to like no end. I understand it's a looter shooter. That's the idea. But they could have easily gone away from the Tom Clancy name, made it something else, made it a little bit more, I don't know, futuristic, whatever, and kept it as a looter shooter, where it would have made sense that this man just absorbed 120 bullets into his noggin and has lost maybe 2 health bars. That shit always pissed me off. So if you like the Division, you're excited for it, great. It probably will be a better game than Anthem, but I do not like the idea of the Division for whatever reason. Just something about it puts me off. I guess I explained that, so whatever. But I know, Shawn, you don't really give a shit about the Division, but what do you think about the idea that Steam's kind of losing their footing here in the PC distribution market?
I think more competitors, the better.
I would agree.
I don't think that works as well for us on streaming services, but when it comes to this kind of thing, I don't understand how we could lose out. I think that works better for the production of the games. I think it works better for the consumption of the games. I really don't give a shit about people whining about launchers. Like, I couldn't care less about that. But the the fact that I mean, all the only thing I can hope is that this gets taken as a pattern of business in other areas of gaming, so that we end up with more of that competition in other areas of gaming also, because there's just been a lot of people just not giving a fuck anymore, and just accepting things the way that's, I think, a good point, is there's been a lot of just accepting it. Like, people have just been accept whatever it happens to be, they've been accepting it. They're done. And I mean, they cry about it in forums, and they cry about it, in other areas, in comment sections on Facebook and whatever, Instagram, etc. But they don't do anything besides cry about it. Like, you got a handful of people that might get pissed off enough to write a letter, but the studios don't care about any of that because they're still making money. And since it's obvious that the large group of players are either, I mean, now video game encompasses such a wide age range. You got people in their 50s playing video games. You got people that are 8 playing video games. No, it's legit, man. There are people that are 10, 15 years older than me that are buying new systems, building computers, and playing games.
There's this grandma on YouTube that plays Skyrim, like, legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
She's like 80 years old.
Yeah, I saw the video on her. The point is like, the audience isn't. It's a different. I want to. It's a different environment than it was before I was born. It's a different environment than it was when I was in high school. It's a different environment than it was 15, 20 years ago. When I was knee deep in video gaming and had every game and every game system, I was like 24, and I'm like a good 10, 15 years older than that now. And I've watched the gamescape change, and now there's such a wider bastion of an audience, and your demographics, there's way more demographics to have to deal with. And it's just a very different world. But gaming itself doesn't have to be all that different. And I think as you see these studios and producers and designers and programmers and shit start to stand their ground, I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, the sizable chunk of the gaming demographic that still has a fucking brain will start using it when they buy things. Because the reason that EA and Activision and Ubisoft have become what they are is because we let them. We kept buying the games when they broke them. We kept supporting the games when they were using predatory and foul, denigrating business practices. We kept giving them money, and I don't know why. I really don't. Maybe we thought we couldn't get that kind of game somewhere else. Maybe we thought there was going to be something in it we didn't want to miss out on, but we've all been guilty of it, myself included. I went out and bought the Spyro trilogy. That's Activision, baby, all the way. It was Naughty Dog, but it's Activision now. And I'm going to buy the Crash trilogy when I have disposable income that I'm willing to put in that direction. Like, I know that there's going to be little bits of support that I can't avoid, but for the most part, I am desperately trying to avoid giving them my money. I'm not buying their new series from them. I'm not supporting their microtransactions. I'm not going to do it. And we need more people to put their feet down and say, no, we're not going to buy your games that are doing this. We're not going to allow you to get away with behaving this way, because we've done it for 20, 30 plus years, and all you do is take advantage of us. And that's not how a business relationship is supposed to work. You're supposed to respect us. You're supposed to work with us and continue making products that we want to use. And you're not doing that anymore. You don't care about the people that you're getting your money from. You used to, but you don't now. You died a long time ago, and what's left is
Shawn.
Satan.
Shawn.
So, what?
Okay, thank you. What was I going to say? We have one more thing to do. But it's going to be after we do everything else, and then we'll do an outro, but I think we're pretty much good. I think that pretty much wraps up the most of the show, or the episode, my bad, the show. And then I had promised Alex that we would read a bit of his story. So we're going to do that. Now, do you want to take turns, Shawn, or do you want me just to read it? We're not going to do all of it. It's 3 pages. We're going to do a page this week.
Oh, what, he wrote a short story?
Yeah, well, that's just a prologue to it, but he wants me to...
Is this Frost? Is Frost Alex?
No. Alex is Handsome Jack.
Handsome Jack. Well, I get so confused because we don't even use... Like, we're not smart YouTubers / streamers. We don't use a call sign. We're just too stupid. We're so used to calling each other by names that wouldn't have lasted more than 2 episodes. So when we refer to people who we know by both name and call sign, I know the names and the call signs, but I don't often have them tied together. So no disrespect, Alex. No disrespect, Frost. I got confused there for a moment.
Okay.
Let me pull up Google
here.
Google Docs.
What I'll do is I will copy
outline.
I will copy it into the outline at the bottom, and then you'll be able to read it that way. Ooh. Why is it bold? That shit out of here. Okay, you see that? See it at the bottom?
Yeah.
All right. So it's called Soul Link Initiate. Sounds like a
initiate.
Sounds like a J.
Is it initiate or initiate?
I don't know.
That's initiate. I think the way he says. But why am I asking? It's got an E on the end of it.
Let us know, Alex. But yeah, so
initiate.
We'll do this if someone necessarily doesn't want to listen for whatever reason, they don't miss anything. This will, after this show, we will be just calling it as
hugs and kisses and all your pink parts for those who have to go.
Yeah. So, well, we're gonna go ahead and read it for him. If you want to stick around, hear what he had to write, feel free to do so. But we'll go ahead and get into it. We could do a paragraph at a time, Shawn. You want to do that? And if the paragraph's just
I guess so.
If the paragraph's just like a sentence or two, just go on to the next one. All right, you start first, bro. Because there's one that's just like 2 sentences, so you can read more of it.
Soul Link. Initiate.
Dun, dun, dun. I'll do the sound effects. Go ahead.
Prologue.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ian McGregory could never remember what happened to him in his youth. He was currently a young boy, nearing 15 years of age.
15 years.
And he could recall most of his life up until that point. Such as when his father had given him his first bike without training wheels when he was 11. The boy had been absolutely delighted. But when he tried thinking about when he was a toddler, all he could find was a blurry haze. Like someone had opened his skull and physically stolen his memories of that time.
I was going to punch my desk, but that would have been too loud. All right.
I believe you're the next paragraph.
Okay. Most of the time, that didn't bother him much. When it did, he would ask one of his parents. The question always coerced a forced smile and an expression of silent grief on their faces. Every time he asked, they'd always give the same answer. He was part of a serious accident as a child and was admitted to an ER. Spent a few days there, and after a period of restlessness and anxiety for his parents, the doctors could finally confirm that the boy was out of danger and on the road to recovery. Another week passed, and Ian was finally discharged, healthy and back to his usual self. However, after the doctors had given him a final exam, they asked him if he could remember anything that happened before he was admitted. Granted, he was but a toddler at the time, no older than 5 or 6, but old enough to answer a simple question, despite the fact he could never recall anything other than a few vague things.
Tall, dark trees reaching up to the skies around him, followed by a blinding light, and finally silence. No matter how hard he tried, he could never recall more than that. What was even more scary was the fact that ever since he had woken up from the coma, there was always a dull ache coursing through his head. Certain days it came on strong, others it was barely noticeable. After speaking to his doctors, Ian had received medicine intended to treat his migraine. It seemed to work rather well, albeit it only temporarily dulled the pain, instead of treating it completely. That was the best he could get, however, and he'd take it.
Where am I? Oh, okay. Today was 1 week from Ian's 15th birthday. Why is he 15, Alex? What a weird. Ain't an anime, bro. And if he's 15, he better be a big titty anime bitch. That's all I gotta say. The The boy was in his bed still, snoozing away the early hours of the morning. Another dreamless night was behind him when the alarm clock on the nightstand next to his bed burst to life in a cacophony of undesirable noise.
Cacophony.
Fuck you. His arm swung at the clock mechanically, like it was okay, the A I don't think is necessarily that. Like it was repeated and trained in response. I don't know. It was weird. Sending it sailing into a wall with a loud bang, silencing it. That's your turn.
Oh.
That's not that.
Is it? Was that long enough?
That paragraph fucked me up. Yeah.
I think you.
Okay, I'll finish.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'll finish right here on this desk. Ian opened his eyes and yawned. The first thing he was made aware of was the ache in his head. Like it always was. It seemed to be rather docile.
Either works.
Okay. On this particular morning, currently no more intense than a dull throbbing, barely noticeable. For safety reasons, however, he still decided to take one of his prescribed migraine pills regardless. He sat up in his bed, slinging his legs over the edge and setting his feet down on the floor, jumping ever so slightly at the cold feeling beneath his soles. He looked to his right where the pill bottle always sat, but he noticed to his surprise, it wasn't there. Dun dun dun. So yeah, we'll continue. Oh, Shawn added the dun 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 into the notes. I like it. All right. So that was the first page. We'll do one each week because I don't know how active he is working on this story, but I don't want to blow through it all in 1 week. But appreciate it, Alex. Again, if you are interested in hearing more of it, you can hit him up on Discord. I'm sure he'd be happy to share it with you. But with that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and call it an episode. Thank you all for listening to episode 81 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We appreciate it. Anything we talked about this episode, if you want to let us know what you think, feel free to hit us up either on Discord, Twitter, Facebook. Drop a comment down below if you're on YouTube. We just want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think about what we discussed. And yeah, that's about it. Shawn, you already gave your ending.
Customary exit.
Yeah, I lost mine, but I found it. So, before we leave, or wait, what was I going to say? Before we go, I shall leave you all with a thought. The phrase rule of thumb is derived from an Old English law, which stated that you couldn't beat
Everybody knows that one, dude.
Shh.
I'm just saying, everyone knows this.
Which stated that you couldn't beat your wife with anything wider than your thumb.